The night is dark and grim on the battlefield, where numerous bodies lie scattered. A crow curiously stares at what has fallen. Using its beak, it starts to peck. Then it rips off one of the parts. Carrying it in its beak, it flies away from there. Another crow is perched on a broken spear, its eyes glowing in the nighttime darkness. Something is drawing its attention. Reflected in its eyes is someone. Wearing clothes different from those fallen in battle, a woman is sitting on the ground. She coughs, causing red liquid to come out of her mouth. This startles the bird. Badly injured, she talks about how terrible some people can be, and complains, saying she shouldn't have trusted them. Someone walks, stepping on the filth of the battlefield. A hooded figure surrounded by an aura. Their gaze is fixed on someone. She is surprised that he survived the battle from which she had no hope of his return. The pink-haired girl is shocked by the figure, especially because he's from planet Earth. The man is Wei Chang, known by the title of Phantom Spear. Trembling, he faces the hooded figure. The man bows his head before her. He fulfilled his promise, and now it's her turn, so he asks what the wish is. A cough interrupts him. Then the hooded one asks if he wishes to be revived. Badly wounded, he makes his request. Her face lights up. She wonders if he had done something even more absurd than what he did today. To send him back, only his soul can go, not a single fragment of his body. Even more so, given how injured he is. But he seems aware of what she's saying. She asks if he wants his emotions and memories of all that happened here to be sent. But even that is a complicated task, and he seems to understand that with a sorrowful gaze. Tears fall from the eye that isn't injured. A light descends and shines on him. Touching his head, she asks why he requested something like that instead of being revived. But she can understand him. Looking at the woman lying next to him, she knows she's a descendant of the royal family. Injured, the descendant says that the venerable Gluttony is right. The kingdom has fallen and the gates have been taken. Gluttony says that passing away is the best option. Forgetting these memories, the man will have a place to return to. But he didn't wish to return because he had no place to stay. The girl asks why she didn't grant his requests, since she seems so regretful. And she says there's no way not to be, since he was born with a destiny to lead others. This surprises the girl with the revelation. The Pundit One says he is a star that stood out and that he died because of his actions, lamenting that he only regretted them in the end. The woman, with a sorrowful look, doesn't know what to say. She even seems to mourn what happened. She tears off the stone she carries on her necklace. Even with the effort, her hand falls to the ground. Her hand opens, revealing the shining stone. The Pundit One understands what it is. The girl says she hopes she hasn't forgotten the royal oath, and Gluttony says that her request can be granted. But the girl wants to know what she can do for her. Her eyes notice something strange. The world has ended, and there's nothing else she wants, except to reward the Earthling for preserving honor to the very end. Gluttony says he cannot return to the past, only his memories as a dream, and asks if she doesn't mind that. But the girl says she's already received a gift from death and that, at the very least, she had an Earthling like him. The figure says both of them will perish and wants to be sure that she truly wishes to fulfill his request so badly. She gives a small smile, even in a moment of pain. Then, fully aware of everything, he confirms his wish. The enormous black wings of Gluttony spread wide, sweeping everything in their path. With a hand gesture, she signals for him to come closer. Raising her other hand, a sphere of energy floats in the air. The fallen girl is enveloped by this radiant energy. Her torn clothes are removed from her body. The same happens to the boy. The stone moves toward his chest, and the goddess states that she eagerly awaits the moment when she will meet them again. She is waiting for it to happen. The energy rises to the sky, lifting the stone high, which now even brighter begins to crack. It then shatters into pieces, and the fragments scatter across the sky. The roulette wheel is spinning with a ball inside. People are cheering and trying to guess which number it will land on. The man is nervous as he brings his hand to his mouth. He pushes more chips onto the table and bets everything on number 0. It is nighttime and the city lights glow. Two men light their cigarettes. They watch as the boy, visibly irritated, kicks a trash bin. One comments that he must have lost his mortgage, but the other disagrees, saying he saw him at least 4 years ago and is surprised that he still looks so young. The man says he must be about 20 years old and is relatively famous, but the other insists that he was not always that notable. However, he used to be very skilled about a year ago, always knowing when to place his bets. That surprises the man, who asks what happened. But there is not much information, only that he started complaining about no longer being able to see someone or something like that. The boy looks defeated as he leans against the trash bin. He wonders why his luck stopped working. His wish is to have one more chance, and with a good game, he could start over. Then an idea crosses his mind, and he decides he needs money. In a downtown coffee shop, a tall man with white hair walks in and approaches the counter. He slides his phone across the surface. With a casual gesture, he asks for the barista's number, but the woman immediately refuses, leaving him frustrated. One person gives him 5 points for physical appearance, another gives 5 points for his face, and another gives 5 points just for his clothes. so he totals 15 points, which, while surprising to them, is still not enough, and the barista asks to speak herself. The door opens once again, and the barista turns to greet the customer, but she finds the person who just walked in strange. It is the boy again with a stern expression on his face. He simply walks past her and orders an Americano. Then he sits down while the others watch with curiosity. The girl with glasses states that payment is up front, but another person decides to prepare the coffee anyway. The machine is on and ready. Meanwhile, she grinds the beans. Drops fall into the cup, while the others return to their tasks. Once ready, the coffee is delivered. The girl with glasses looks somewhat disappointed that he does not seem to care much. Then suddenly, he asks to speak to the manager. Startled, the woman asks if there is a problem. Holding an insect, he claims it was in his coffee. Disgusted, she says that such a thing would never happen. Irritated, he raises his voice and asks if she is calling him a liar. This makes her even more anxious. But another employee touches his shoulder. She says she will handle the situation. Pulling out a chair, she sits in front of him, then asks what he thinks he is doing. And as if it is nothing, he replies that he is simply requesting compensation for emotional distress, which shocks her. He says he has a very fragile heart and was deeply shaken upon seeing the insect in his drink. But she does not seem to fully believe it. Then he repeats what was once said to him, that it was over, and after that, she stops speaking to him. So he asks the manager, Manhwa, how she plans to resolve the matter. For a moment, she remains silent. With a sigh, she takes her phone from her pocket. He says that he once sent her a little money when she was studying abroad, and with irony, he remarks that he thought she had forgotten. He asks if that is all, since he remembers sending money so she would not go hungry in a foreign country. With a tap, she makes the transfer. His phone vibrates in his pants pocket. Grabbing it and seeing the notification, his eyes widen. But he is not satisfied with it being only 2001. That she says that is all, and there are no further ties between them. That seems to have left him disappointed. And Manhwa notices something different. But slamming his fist on the table, he asks if she's also mocking him, leaving her stunned. He says he was holding himself together and asks if she thinks he's some kind of beggar. But Manhwa seems a bit more confused. Irritated, he says he can't be treated like that since she clung to him when she was in trouble, and with a bit of money, she changed. Hearing all of that makes her entire body tremble. Tears fall, wetting her apron, and she asks what happened to him. He seems surprised and at the same time confused by the question. Crying, Manhwa says that he was the one who helped her the most, and that everything was because of him. Even when she wanted to give up, he was the only reason she kept going. A memory of when they were together comes to her. Then she asks how he managed to destroy himself so much, making him tense. He looks worn down by her words, but angrily he says it's all because of that. If he hadn't lost, since he was very young, he had an ability. Being special from a young age, all it took was to focus his attention on his eyes. Then anything would light up with green lights. And nothing would happen if he didn't get involved with those lights. Atop a rock stands a lion, which is not glowing. However, if he got involved with things that didn't have that color, the boy becomes fascinated by the creature, which charges at him, and more than half the time, things without that color meant something bad happened. So there was a small chance something would occur. And to prove it, he chose the casino. Standing in front of the building, he thinks about his idea. In his first year of gambling, it was as if the goddess of victory was at his side. The roulette spins rapidly. Gradually, it slows down. Slower and slower, just about to stop. Then the boy can finally celebrate his win. Once he started with 101, and in just 2 days, he made 5,000. And with each passing day, the amount of money grew so much he couldn't even count it. However, using his ability more frequently, he started suffering from migraines and insomnia. As for the green light that used to appear so easily, with his glowing eyes, he strains to activate it, because now it took several minutes of concentration for it to appear, and even then very faintly. Then one day, after becoming very ill, all of his luck was gone. However, he had already become a gambling addict, and so he started losing everything he had. On a beautiful night, while some enjoy themselves, others like him are alone. He drinks the whole bottle, then wipes his mouth with his jacket. With the little money he had left, he just wants to make a great bet to get things back on track. Falling to the ground at the thought, he has no idea how to make it happen. While lying there, time passes and he falls asleep. Suddenly, a light appears near him. It grows stronger and greener, and forms into the shape of a prism. The shape is complete, glowing with a blue light, and it moves toward his forehead. Still asleep, unaware of anything, the prism enters his mind. Now in his dream, it's like watching a movie inside his own head, where various monsters are the enemies. A powerful knight fights against them. Even though he fights briefly, the knight is defeated, and at the moment of his fall, a hooded figure appears. He stands with his head down, looking regretful. His own tears soak his wounded, stained face. He no longer has strength, just the will to start over. Then Seal wakes up with his eyes wide open. He quickly sits up, feeling as if he really just came out of a deadly battle. Sweat runs down his terrified face, and it feels as if a terrible pain has hit him. He wonders why he had such a terrible dream. Still trembling from the after effects, he grabs his cigarette and puts it in his mouth. Seal exhales the smoke while trying to calm down, not understanding why his heart is suffering so much. Regretful and feeling like an idiot, he wonders what he did, ashamed of his actions. He lowers his head, torturing himself over all the bad things. Suddenly, he jumps to his feet. He intends to return what he took, but for now, he needs to fix things. So he searches the pocket of his jacket. His eyes widen as he looks around and finds nothing. After checking all his pockets, he concludes it's not with him. Ju-seol can't believe this is really happening. Even after searching everywhere possible, it's not with him. What's left to think is that someone must have taken it while he was asleep. He considers the possibility that it was caught on CCTV. The young man sees the train passing by and stretches out his hand as if he wants to grab it. But the idea quickly seems ridiculous. Laughing at his own stupidity, he wonders how he would even get his hands on it. All of this leaves him frustrated. Then, irritated, he yells out over the loss of his money. He's feeling more and more defeated and starts going down the stairs with no energy left. Stepping into the water, his thought is that the only thing left is to die. To him, that decision is better than living like this, and he's deeply sorry to Sunhwa for making it. He also apologizes to his parents while crying, his reflection shimmering in the water. Finally, a tear falls from his eye, and as it touches the water, it glows green. The light grows larger as the tear mixes in. This startles Ju-seol a little. He's also confused, not understanding what's happening. The light grows even stronger, and everything around him begins to shine with green light, leaving him impressed and wondering if the light has returned. This time, the tears seem to be from emotion as he wonders how this is possible. Someone is coming toward him. The woman says the water's pretty cold these days. She seems quite calm on this night, then says she came to talk with him. Ju-seol is very surprised by the woman in front of him. Once again, she explains why she's there, and it seems to make his head ache. To him, it feels like deja vu, though he's more certain he saw something like this in his dream. She then asks him to come up, saying that even though the view is nice from up here, for her, it's a somewhat special day. Showing her card, she introduces herself as Hannah Kim, director at Shinyoung. The young man climbs the stairs with his wet sneakers. As he approaches, she extends her hand, and he takes the card, reading the information. Suddenly, he finds it strange that the phrase human shield crossed his mind and wonders why he'd think of something like that right now. But Hannah Kim wants to get straight to the point because they don't have much time. She removes the strap of her bag from her shoulder, and then shows him the open bag filled with $1 bills. The woman then challenges him to a bet. Ju-seol curiously looks at the bundle of cash. It seems way too tempting for the man, leaving him even more thoughtful about it. But he replies that he doesn't gamble anymore and besides wants to know how she knows him. Yet she asks what does it matter and says he could win it all in a single move. It would even cover his huge debt. Rudely, he says that's none of her business and demands that Hannah Kim answer his question. Regaining her composure, she says it was part of data gathering before business negotiations and apologizes for not mentioning it sooner. He asks what kind of business it is. Again, she says she's a director and wants to hire him, but for that, Ju-seol needs to listen. That makes him wonder why Shinyoung would want to hire him and what kind of bet this is. But that's not even the biggest problem. To him, there's something more important. Hannah Kim smiles in a strange way, and all he can think of is a human shield, so he refuses her proposal. The woman seems disbelieving at what she just heard, and asks if he's not even going to listen. Once he hears the terms, he'll see he has nothing to lose, but Ju-seol says he's fine. Having to accept that, she says he's very determined. Then she picks up her phone, and looking at it, says that coincidentally the spot has just been filled. Hannah Kim apologizes for the inconvenience and wishes him good luck. And with that, she turns to leave. However, the man asks her to wait and she seems satisfied that her plan worked. Turning to look at him, she asks him to speak. Then Ju-seol says that as long as it's not a contract, without that, he's willing to listen to her. Hannah Kim doesn't quite understand what he said, and confidently, he says he prefers it to be an invitation rather than a contract. A giant monster with a massive iron ball chained to its wrist lifts it into the air. The creature tries to attack Ju-seol, and everything happens so fast, like a flash of light. The knight pierces through the monster, and then unleashes another strike with his weapon. Emerging unscathed with the creature slain on the ground, out of the corner of his eye, he notices something. More ferocious monsters are coming, and in that dream he went from one battle to the next, always fighting desperately for his life, until he finally couldn't take it anymore and collapsed to the ground defeated. And at the moment of his end, he made a plea to the goddess, begging her for the chance to restart his life. It was the first time he ever felt that way. However, in that dream, everything began when he met this young woman. She doesn't seem to like the idea of it being an invitation instead of a contract, so she accuses him, asking if he's already part of that other side. But with a lot of patience, Ju-seol says that she, more than anyone, should know that's not the case. Then Hannah Kim thinks that if he really were part of it, there would be a mark on him, and the man appears clean. She asks who was the one that recruited him first. The man thinks a bit before answering, then says it doesn't matter, leaving her even more shocked. She finds it strange that he knows the difference between a contract and an invitation. Ju-seol says that's the whole point, he just wants an invitation. Then Hannah Kim asks him to explain why he wants that. The man says it's pretty obvious. If there's a choice on the scale, an invitation would be preferable. She asks why she should use her precious invitation on a useless gambler, and he says it would be a problem if she didn't. That shocks her. The pharmaceutical company Shinyoung has been in the news a lot since they developed a drug years ago, and he believes it's connected to the other world. Desperate, she asks what he's going to do about it and whether he really thinks people would believe a gambling addict. But he says her superiors wouldn't be happy to know she couldn't even handle an invitation, which infuriates her, and she curses at him. Ju-seol says he doesn't want to go too far, so she just needs to give him an invitation. However, the woman says the two things are completely different, and that she's not capable of issuing an invitation. Cleverly, he asked about the precious invitation she mentioned earlier. But Hannah Kim isn't lying. To give an invitation, she needs permission. Once again, she reaches into her bag, taking out her phone. She unlocks the device to use it, and the woman has only one mission with it. She'll have to keep him safe, because soon she'll need to use it. In a memory at the foot of the goddess's statue, she asks if it really will be soon. The goddess says she'll find herself in a situation where she'll have no choice but to use it. Something small and glowing appears in her hand. It's an object different from anything she's seen with a symbol on it. What's happening can only be what the goddess spoke of, which leaves the woman irritated. To Hannah, he's a privileged one who, instead of being a slave, looks more like a veteran who spent years on the other side, and on top of that, there's a prophecy about him. With little choice, she considers accepting, but there are conditions. So Ju-seol tells her to just say it. The first is that he must promise right now that he's never been to the other world before, and of course he promises. The second is that he must tell her his secrets, who he met and what he knows about those people, but that the man can't do. So she asks if he wouldn't even do that for a special invitation. That sparks his curiosity and interest. Ju-seol thinks about it for a moment, leaving the woman expectant. However, he refuses, saying that maybe he'll tell her someday if he learns to trust her. To him, keeping his dreams secret is necessary, and it's his only advantage. Hannah Kim seems a bit tired for an argument, so she agrees. Her final condition is that if he manages to enter, he must do business with them before anyone else. Ju-seol thinks that if she used those words, she probably gave up on the slave contract. She says that if he's not an idiot, he won't have trouble getting in, and she doesn't care what method is used to make it happen. So he accepts the terms, which is great for her. She turns to rummage through her bag once more. The golden color is already shining in her hand. It's the golden object she received from the goddess. Curious, she asks if that's the seal. Hannah Kim grabs his arm and, irritated, says that it's her life. She stamps the symbol on his hand. A glow appears. He stares at it, not understanding what's happening. His hand glows even more brightly, and the mark is etched into his skin. Then she begins to slowly fade away. Ju-seol is surprised when she vanishes completely. Hannah Kim then pushes an envelope toward him. She says it's up to him to read it and that the portal will open that night at 10:30. She asks him to settle all his affairs, even if she's not sure he has anything to resolve. And of course, she tells him not to get eliminated. Otherwise, she'll hunt him down to get everything back. She stomps her foot hard on the ground and turns to leave, leaving Ju-seol with little choice. But then she stops, having remembered something she needed to return. A bundle of cash is tossed. The man catches it before it hits the ground. It's the money he had been looking for. The woman warns him not to sleep just anywhere and reminds him he could die from the cold. With nothing more to say, she walks off. The money is finally with him. Ju-seol checks the time on his phone, remembering he needs to take care of things before the portal opens. Looking at the money, he thinks of Sanhwa. At the cafe, the staff asks the manager to rest while they clean up the store. Looking tired, Sanhwa is sitting down. Suddenly, someone walks in, startling her a bit. It's Ju-seol again. That annoys her, and she yells that it hasn't even been a full day since he got the money. Though she says that's not the reason, she demands that he leave. She tells him to go before she calls the police for disturbing work, which he finds outrageous. Grabbing her arm, Ju-seol asks her to calm down and listen to what he has to say. The girl pulls her arm away, saying there's nothing left to talk about. She says he better be gone by the time she gets back. Desperate, he begs her to wait. But Sanhwa has shut the door, and only authorized people can enter. The girls talk among themselves. Then the three of them guard the door so he can't come in. Regretful, Ju-seol understands that all of this was inevitable. He looks at the clock on the wall, then asks the girls to deliver something when Sanhwa returns. After lighting a cigarette, he walks down the street. Then he runs so as not to waste any more time. Meanwhile, Sanhwa slightly opens the door and asks the girls if he's already gone. One of them confirms and hands over the money he left behind. Ju-seol is in an alley behind the cafe. Checking the time on his phone, he wonders if he should send a message. Back inside, Sanhwa rushes out through the cafe's door in a panic. She looks around searching for something. The woman notices smoke coming from the back of the store. It's him, standing there using his phone. Suddenly, a vortex of light appears above his head. The light is a magical portal. Then he vanishes along with it. On the ground, only his phone and the still-lit cigarette are left behind. By the time the young woman gets there, it's already too late. She walks into the alley. Sanhwa picks the phone up from the ground, and the last thing the man was doing was sending a message. The girl looks out beyond the horizon, not knowing what happened to him. The ceiling light is on. It seems to hurt his eyes, making him close them. But slowly, he begins to adjust. Ju-seol is lying in bed, trembling. The place is very dirty, with food wrappers scattered everywhere. He's surprised to find himself in his own room. Then, after getting up, he opens the window. However, he notices that there's no one outside. His phone rings from a notification. On the screen, there's a message asking him to read it. The young man picks up the phone looking impressed. The problem is, this isn't his phone. But even so, he picks it up, and suddenly, a warning appears saying the user registration is complete. There's a notification for a message. Curious, he taps it to see what it's about. It's a directive asking him to go to the Paradise School auditorium within the displayed time. He has 9:45 minutes to get there. The name Paradise School catches his attention. The place is quite large with a spacious sports field. Ju-seol walks across the big campus. To find his way, he reads the signs. He realizes Paradise refers to the school, unlike in his dream where it seemed more like a fantasy. The young man still finds it strange that there's no one else on the streets, as if he were the only person in the world. He continues walking through the area. Then, based on the directions, he finally finds the Paradise School auditorium. As he's still climbing the steps, someone's already waiting for him. Soon he comes face to face with her. The girl greets him kindly. To Ju-seol, she seems to be a foreigner. Without saying anything to her, he tries to walk through the door, but the blonde girl extends her hand. Then she extends the other, and he doesn't understand. With both hands outstretched, the girl seems to be expecting him to hand something over. The only thing he can think of is that she's waiting to check his invitation. In a crowded room, a woman says they just want him to show the contract. There are some guys sitting in chairs looking uninterested and only wanting to mess around. One of them says something about ending up there because they're useless. Ju-seol grows a little curious about them, but he hands over the letter given to him by Hannah Kim. She opens it and immediately notices the paper is crumpled. As soon as she starts reading, the girl is visibly impressed. So much so that she even starts to tremble. Though he doesn't seem impressed, he just wants to understand her reaction. She bows to him as she would to someone very important. That surprises Ju-seol and grabs everyone's attention in the auditorium. Finally, she signals for him to enter. The situation makes him a bit nervous, but either way, he is guided by the woman. She kindly points to where he should sit. Even more nervous, he accepts his seat. Once again, the girl bows to him. And of course, people remain curious about that. One of the men asks why she did that, and the one with platinum hair recalls he didn't get the same treatment. Now that the woman is gone, everyone looks at Ju-seol. He, however, just wants to know who these people are. But everyone goes back to what they were doing before. Suddenly, another migraine hits Ju-seol. Now the people are surrounding him. This makes him suspicious, his heartbeat racing from the anxiety. The young man remembers that in his dream he was standing, and apparently the situation has changed. The door is slammed shut. Someone shouts, asking if everyone is there. On stage, a man in uniform greets them. He introduces himself as Han and says he'll be their guide. Han says he understands that everyone must have a lot of questions, but for now, they must follow the schedule. He asks them to think about attribute windows or just attributes, and that unless permission is granted, no one else will be able to see them. Naturally, Ju-seol thinks about attribute windows. Suddenly, a screen appears before him. Not just for him, everyone who thought of it is surprised by what appears before their eyes. A bit confused, one man asks a woman what a native ability is while a child tells his mother he can't see anything. That makes Han curious, and he asks if the man has a native ability. But the man denies it, saying nothing is written. Then Han says not to worry, as it's normal for humans not to have any. That grabs Ju-seol's attention. After all, his screen says he has two. The young man is a bit shocked by the information. He has future sight, which he believes is tied to his dream, and wonders if the question mark is his second native ability. However, he prefers not to reveal anything to others while Han moves on to the next step. He asks them to activate the mark category either by thought or by speaking aloud. One person hesitates, unsure of what to say, but still not understanding much, they take the risk. A young girl activates the mark category. A symbol appears above her head, clearly visible, so much so that the man behind her is startled. Curious, he decides to take the same risk and says the same words. Then a similar mark appears above his head. More people follow, activating the bronze mark. Han arranges the papers in his hands. Then he tosses them into the air. Each paper hovers, organizing itself into a circle. Then they simply transform into bags. Han explains that a random box will be given to those with the bronze mark as a benefit, though no invitation bonus will be granted. As the girl begins to distribute them, he says it's wise to use the benefits as soon as they're received. After all, it would be a shame to die without using them since the tutorial begins soon. Then he notices there are two people with a silver mark. That excites him to be the guide this time. The two people are Mr. Kang-suk and Miss Asura. Two more papers are tossed into the air, then transform into the same boxes, this time in silver. Unlike the bronze marks, they will receive benefits through the invitation. For him, it's a relief that the girl received it. Then Han finally notices Ju-seol sitting there, and he demands that the young man activate his mark category. The man explains once again how it should be done. His eyes seem heavy with fatigue, until suddenly they open wide as if they were about to pop out. To his surprise, Ju-seol possesses the golden mark. Han is extremely surprised as it's the first time he's seen one and says that in all history there's only ever been one person with it. He notices a strange reaction from the young lady beside him, but the girl is just laughing at his reaction. Holding Ju-seol's invitation in hand, he announces that they are in the presence of someone important. This makes everyone else fixate on him, even burning with envy. Just like the others, he receives a box. This is the only one colored gold. The young woman hands it to him. Before leaving, she gives him a thumbs up, making the young man nervous. Curious like the others, Han asks him to open the benefit immediately. Ju-seol opens it, receiving 5,000 survival points, a survival mark, and a diary of a certain student, updated. He's looking at his window when the phone in his pocket vibrates. 3 glowing cubes are inside the bag. Han talks about these boxes and says they're very easy to open. He opens the first box of necessities, which seeks out what's most needed at the moment. Impressed, he looks at the window and the future sight skill reacts with the awakening of a new ability. The skill evolves into 9 eyes, turning green for general observation. For that, you must confirm. Ju-seol is still very confused by all this information. Something catches his attention, and next to him is Yoon Seore. Her screen is visible to him, and the young man seems a bit surprised. He can apparently see the windows of others as well. This makes him suspicious since Han had said that only the owner could view their attribute window. The second box is opened, and he receives a scroll. This way, his skill evolves into 9 eyes. With yellow-colored eyes, he gains focused attention. Orange is a warning to stay away. Red means he should retreat immediately. The third box is so bright it nearly blinds him. Still unable to see clearly because of the light, he recalls a memory of a woman telling him how beautiful his eyes are. A memory from when he was little and was told they were like the 7 colors of the rainbow. Still stunned by what happened, Han yells at him, wanting to know if all the boxes were opened. Then Ju-seol confirms. The man knows that for the good of everyone, the boxes can grant incredible benefits without regard for balance. The young man says he received a message to check his attribute window, and Han thinks he can let it slide since it must be just an enhancement. And excited, his interest is in getting the game started. Everyone seems to be in agreement, but someone asks to wait. A participant asks them to hold on and raises her arm. This doesn't please Han, who is just about to begin, and he asks what she wants. She says that she and the rest of her group didn't receive benefit bags. Han explains that they're only for those who were invited, but she insists that they were too and wants to know the reason for the difference. The man says it's simple. The group with benefits were invited after a thorough evaluation. As for them, they were brought through contracts. Then Han adds that she's already suffered enough from the consequences of the real world. This gives a bad feeling to Shin Sang-ah, who even trembles in fear. The man says she's had enough explanation and wants to begin, but another person doesn't seem satisfied either. The man becomes outraged, saying that regardless of how everyone came, they deserve a better explanation, and he angrily asks why they've been grouped together. But Han says he'll figure it out for himself because it's already too late. He taps the screen of his phone with a malicious smile. Everyone in the auditorium receives a notification on their phones. Ju-seol is holding his phone. The message from the guide says the first tutorial mission, Escape the Auditorium, has begun, and his diary has been updated. Han wishes them a wonderful school year and lots of good luck. People are confused by what he says as he disappears along with the girl beside him. Meanwhile, Ju-seol is reading the guide on how to escape the auditorium and reach the waiting area on the 2nd floor of the main building within 3 hours. This deeply worries the young man. Suddenly, something slams hard against the door, trying to get in, which scares everyone. Ju-seol gets up from his chair. Then he activates his ocular ability. The door emits a red light, and he understands he shouldn't get close. They keep pounding on the strong metal door, and part of the structure collapses to the floor. This makes the people even more frightened, but the banging on the door continues, until someone takes initiative and tells them to block it to prevent it from being opened. The girl grabs one of the chairs and runs to help. She uses the object to block the door, but whatever it is keeps pushing, and more people run over to help her. The group is holding the door. One of the boys yells for help. The force hitting the door is so strong that 3 people are pushed away. They fall to the ground, extremely exhausted. But even so, they get up again to help once more. It takes a lot of effort from the team. Meanwhile, Ju-seol looks for information on his phone. He's reading a journal that talks about blocking the auditorium door somehow. An interesting piece of information in the journal says that blocking it was useless, but that during the chaos, the person ended up discovering a hole. The pounding on the door stops. One of them asks if it's gone, and everyone believes so. The exhausted girl collapses to the floor. Kang-suk says it's been on fire since the beginning, and that it's made his body tingle. He tells his teammates that it's time to search the place. Then that man calls out to him. With a displeased look, Kang-suk turns to him and asks the man if he was talking to him. The man just wants to know what his plan is, and Kang-suk simply says to investigate, leaving the man uncertain. Then he points to a specific spot. Yoon Seore is on stage investigating behind the curtains. She then notices something and pulls the curtain to take a better look. The man is unsure what they're looking for, but with the door blocked, Kang-suk says they need to find something useful. It makes sense to him, so he offers to help. But Kang-suk tells him to do whatever he wants, claiming he's not there to give orders. Still, the man says they'd finish faster if he and his group helped. However, the young man doesn't seem very interested. That leaves the man confused. Kang-suk turns his back, saying for him to do whatever he wants since the matter is already resolved, leaving the man furious. Irritated, the man calls him a worthless loser. The young man stops and lets out a long sigh. Then it's Shin Sang-ah, who calls him a damn selfish jerk and says he's only thinking of himself in a situation like this. Kang Suk asks her to repeat what she just said. Frustrated, she asks if he hasn't noticed everyone there. After all, there are women and children too. But it doesn't seem to matter much to him. Many seem just as irritated as she is, while others stay thoughtful about the situation. But the young man gives a slightly ironic smile, then asks what she wants from him since they already have enough to worry about. Shin Sang says that's why they offered help. As if it were nothing, he scoffs at the offer, which seems to make her even more upset. Then Kang Suk asks why she's dumping all the baggage on him, further irritating her. And he affirms again, saying he realizes they're trying to use him and tells useless people like them to get out of his way. The woman clenches her fists, trembling with anger. But Yahello steps in to prevent a bigger fight and says they need all the help they can get, so they have to work together. The young man says whatever and offers her and her brother to join his team. Suspicious, she asks why he wants to bring them in, and Kang Suk simply says they seem useful, which angers Shin Sang, who asks how he could know what's useful or not. With a smile, he says it's simple, and explains that it's because the two of them were invited. As for the others, he says they were dragged in because of a contract. His words make the young woman even more furious. Then Kang Suk calls out to someone, and it's Ju Seal, who is standing in the middle of the auditorium. He turns to see who is calling him, and Kang Suk asks if he doesn't want to finish the tutorial already and says it'll be easy if he joins them. The young man seems to think for a moment, while everyone else is looking at him waiting for an answer. In her thoughts, Yi Seol prays for everyone to be helped and not abandoned in that place. Yu Seol closes his eyes, and when he opens them, the color is green. He sees the color green on people, and the same goes for the door that is secure. But Kang Suk's color is orange, asking him to pay attention to him. The real surprise, however, is Yi Seol, who has no color at all. That leaves Ju Seol deep in thought, and he doesn't really know what to say or do, until suddenly, everything around him turns red, signaling an immediate evacuation. More booms erupt, scaring everyone. This time, the banging seems to come from beneath the floor, and people want to know what's going on. Some of them even think it might be an earthquake. But Ju Seol yells at them to run. Everyone decides to listen and runs as told. People are desperate to save their lives. In the middle of the chaos, Yi Sung-jin ends up injuring his ankle. As a result, he falls to the ground. His sister notices what happened to him. The girl rushes to help and frantically begs him to get up quickly. A dark circle appears on the floor behind him, and it suddenly shatters, sending pieces flying everywhere. From the hole, hooks attached to ropes emerge. The man panics, trying to figure out what's going on, and the siblings are about to escape before they're caught. However, one of the hooks is heading straight toward them. Realizing this, Yi Seol pushes her brother out of the way. He hits the ground hard as he falls. Desperately, he looks at his sister. The girl is now acting as his human shield. Then something strikes her with great force. It's the hook attached to the cables, which then pulls the girl toward the hole. Desperate, Yi Sung-jin screams for his sister and begs the others to grab her. The man tells his wife to take their daughter and keep her away from the chaos. Meanwhile, Yi Seol is halfway inside the hole, and the others are struggling to pull her back. Yu Seol and the rest simply watch the scene unfold. Then Hyun Sang-min tells them all to help. The people remain frozen, unsure if they should really get involved. One of the women joins the group, but to Ju Seol it already feels too late. Yi Sung-jin is desperately holding on to his sister, and the young man notices the look in his eyes. So he asks him to help save his sister. The people around them look at him, whispering about someone with a golden mark not helping, and Ju Seol feels compelled to act. So he runs in to help. From within the hole comes a terrible scream, followed by a spray of red liquid that drenches Yi Seol. Something begins wrapping around the girl's body. As a result, the others fall to the ground. Another war frightens them, and the girl's body begins to shake as the hole starts to close. Her legs, still sticking out, fall flat to the floor. Yi Sung-jin rushes to his sister. Desperately, he grabs her foot and pulls to get her out. The scene is utterly horrifying and leaves everyone in shock. Only a part of Lee Seo remains, and from the hole, something starts to emerge. The man is the first to notice. A terrifying creature with red eyes and monstrous jagged teeth. It climbs out of the hole, showing how massive it is compared to them. The monster opens its huge mouth and roars once more. Its feet, emerging from the hole, have only 3 thick, sharp claws. Terrified, the people run away from the scene. Meanwhile, Yoon Seora hides behind the stage, trembling in fear. People run toward the door. The lady in red tries to remove the chair that had earlier been blocking something from getting in. Jung Min-woo pushes her, striking her in the face. He easily removes the chair, and with it, he runs back toward the monster. With all of his brute strength, he throws the metal chair at the creature. The chair flies toward it, but is stopped by one of the hooks. Then it crashes to the floor without hitting the monster. People try to open the door, and a desperate Kang Suk begs them to hurry. But the monster leaps forward and lands on someone, crushing them beneath its weight. The creature roars again, and people run in panic, looking for help. With its hooks, it lashes out at everyone, slicing through flesh in its path. The eerie, terrifying creature reveals its enormous tongue. The door finally opens, and everyone runs for the exit. Ju Seol is among those fleeing. However, his concern is that he doesn't understand why he isn't even slightly nervous. He wonders if it's because it doesn't feel real at all. Then he stops beside a metal rod and stares at the object. He kicks it, as if trying to remember something. The young man picks up the staff, and as he spins it effortlessly in his hand, he thinks the answer is obvious. Hyukuseol handles his new weapon. Then he recalls the fighter from his dream and mimics the same combat stance. To him, this is nothing. The others run to save themselves, all heading in the same direction. But Kang Suk tells his team to go the other way. Meanwhile, Hyun Sang-min stands still, observing everything. Two groups split up as they flee. He looks toward the destroyed auditorium door, but eventually decides to run with them. Meanwhile, the terrifying monster shows its sharp teeth, but Hyuseol doesn't seem fazed. The monster charges forward with its hooks and wide-open mouth ready to attack, and an orange aura surrounds the young man. He strikes the creature. The impact isn't powerful, but enough to stop it in its tracks. Its red lizard eye senses something. The monster looks toward the exit of the auditorium. The iron bar is dropped to the floor. This frightens Hyuseol greatly. He doesn't quite understand what he just did. Meanwhile, Kang Suk's group tries to find shelter. Jung Minwoo uses all of his strength to open a door, but it seems like an impossible task even for him. And Kang Suk explains that he won't manage it using brute force alone, while in the background, Hyun Sang-min heads in another direction. This does not go unnoticed by him. The man heads for the windows and picks up one of the many potted plants nearby. Seeing this, Kang Suk says it's expected of one of the invited to use his head and sarcastically remarks that he was invited exactly for thinking. The window glass is shattered, and Hyun Sang-min tries to reach the latch, until his eyes widen. From the piece of glass on the floor, the reflection of the monster is visible. Then he screams that the thing is out. This sends the whole team into a panic. Desperate, Kang Suk yells for the door to be opened immediately. Out of the corner of his eye, he notices something. It's Hyun Sang-min running away, and he calls him a cowardly piece of shit. The hole in the floor is stained with the girl's fluid, and Hyuseol remembers that this was mentioned in the journal. Then he recalls what was left of her in his mind. To him, maybe Hyuseol could have survived if she hadn't hesitated so much. He looks toward the stage. Hyuseol remains hidden there, trembling with fear. She tries to convince herself to open her eyes, telling herself she came knowing what could happen. But it all just frightens her. Very carefully, she tries to take a look, and sees that everyone is gone, including the monster. Meanwhile, Hyuseol conducts his own investigation. Using his phone's flashlight, he examines everything around him carefully. He keeps moving cautiously, and following his phone's instructions, it seems he's reached the right place. There's a message. Kang Suk, Yi Hyung-sik, and Minwoo have reached the waiting area on the second floor, which surprises him. He has the map of the main area on the second floor. One area is marked in red, and he wants to understand what it means. Something approaches from behind him, and he quickly notices turning around. From the hallway, he can only see a flashlight. All he does is turn off his phone's light. Hyuseol is afraid of being discovered. Someone is coming from the darkness, guided by the flashlight. However, luckily for Hyuseol, the person finds nothing. The person continues to get closer while searching the area, and Hyuseol is worried about being spotted. To be sure, he uses his ocular ability, that a green light illuminates the person, and he notices there's no color change. Even so, he doesn't know what to do, until he remembers the attribute window. With just a thought, he manages to activate it. That's how he discovers the person is Hyun Sang-min. The man keeps walking, unconcerned. Then it's Hyuseol who turns on his flashlight and shines it on him, prompting the man to ask who he is. Even blinded by the light, he recognizes him and asks if he's the guy with the gold mark. Hyuseol remains where he is still, and Hyun Sang-min approaches even more. Then he confirms the young man is from the gold mark and says it took him a while to find him. Suspicious, the young man asks what he wants. Hyun Sang-min says they're going to win together, and that surviving on his own would be difficult even with a gold mark. But then Hyuseol wants to know why him, since the man would have more advantage with the silver mark group, and Hyun Sang-min thinks he's just asking that to test him. That doesn't convince the young man. So being direct, he says he doesn't tolerate disadvantages or injustice, and that those guys are on their own. With his nine eyes ability, Hyuseol looks at the man's window. The man finds that a bit strange. His temperament is egocentric, always seeking personal gain, his aptitude is above average, and he has strong instincts. All of those traits put Hyuseol on alert. Then he tells the man that he needs to ask something. He wants to know why he went to the girl when she was being dragged into the hole. The young man remembers Hyun Sang-min running toward her, and then yelling for the others to help, being the first one to do so. So Hyuseol asks what benefit he would get from trying to save her. He also says he could have died if things hadn't gone as planned. Hyun Sang-min says it's pretty simple. He just wanted to earn everyone's trust. The young man doesn't quite understand what he means by that. Then he explains that if it had worked, he would be seen as a savior and people would feel they owed him, doing whatever they could for him. But he regrets having failed completely. Hyuseol thinks everything is coldly calculated and that the sincerity is just a tactic to earn his trust. Hyun Sang-min says he'll follow his orders and that he's also willing to risk himself for him. The young man realizes it's like a hierarchy and asks what the man gets out of something like that. He says it gives him a better chance of making it to the end alive, because from his point of view, the odds are better this way. Seal understands that he's laying his cards on the table and doesn't seem very concerned about it. At the very least, he thinks the man is easier to deal with than Kang-suk. All that's left is to introduce himself, saying his name is Seal. Hyun Sang-min says the name sounds like a girl's and that he'll do his best to repay him. But the young man asks for what, since they haven't done anything yet. Hyun Sang-min asks what he plans to do and says he'd like to hear the plan, and Seal simply says he has to find it, leaving him confused. Then he explains that this is why they were given 4 hours. Elsewhere, things don't seem to be going well. Outside, everything is empty and silent. Meanwhile, the survivors are in hiding. The man says the main entrance is blocked by an invisible wall and the monsters in the auditorium. His wife wants to know what to do, and he thinks the only way is to go up to the 2nd floor like the other group. Frustrated, the man says that if he had known this would happen, he would have followed them. He blames his wife for going the other way, and she defends herself, saying she was just trying to escape. Shin Sang watches the unpleasant situation unfold. In another corner, Yi Sung-jin is crying over the death of his sister. Meanwhile, the lady in red asks what he's going to do and if he has some brilliant idea. The man thinks about a new plan. With his eyes, he notices something. He sees the girl in the blue cloak walking around the area, and with a smile, he says that he does have a plan. Seal explains that the mission is simple, even with the monster anomaly, and that despite the time given, the auditorium is close to the main building. Hyun Sang-min agrees since Kang-suk and his group already finished their mission. Seal believes there will be other missions, and the man wants to understand why they were given so much time. He answers that it's so they can get their hands on what they need. Hyun Sang-min asks if that would be a weapon to defeat the monster, but he says he doesn't know if that's an option. He's looking for something else. Curious, the man asks what that would be then, and the answer is that they'll find it there. Hyun Sang-min asks what place this is that he just opened the door to, and as if it were obvious, Seal says it's the main building. Meanwhile, the man asks if everyone understood what he said. Judging by their reactions, they don't seem to agree much. Then Shin Sang asks if they really have to go through with this. Arrogantly, the man asks if she has a better plan than his. The lady in red is the only one who seems confident in his plan, asking who says they should die here. Shin Sang looks at the man's wife, but the woman quickly looks away as if she's afraid of something. With no one else saying anything, the man says they should get started and look for something more suitable. Each person heads off in a different direction. They search every possible area. Meanwhile, the lady in red asks the boy if he plans to stay in that same state. In the same position, Yi Sung-jin doesn't seem to care much. Then Shin Sang-na says she understands how he feels, but that he shouldn't give up after all. There's a reason they're there. The young man doesn't react beyond whimpering. She asks if he'll let his sister's death be in vain. That statement seems to hit the boy. He remembers his cheerful sister. Then someone shouts that it's been found. The man then says it's time for them to begin. In another part of the building, Yoon Seora is searching through some things. She sifts through some papers until she finally finds what she was looking for. The girl lifts the paper up to her face. Suddenly, she hears a noise. It's the monster, hunting for its victims. She quickly hides under a bookshelf. The creature seems to sense something and looks through the window. To avoid being found, the girl even covers her mouth with her hands to stay silent. The monster is about to leave, until a rock is thrown at the window, shattering the glass. The object lands right beside her. This grabs the attention of the horrid creature. It was the boy who hit the window, and the man celebrates what he did. And the boy shows off, saying he told them he was a pitcher on the basketball team. The one in red asks if they should go, but the man explains they have to be sure the creature has entered. One of the young boys says he still doesn't see anything. The building is dark with no sign of anyone walking inside. The door is opened by the monster. While Yoon Seora is growing more terrified, feeling her heart pounding hard. With its enormous mouth, the monster searches for someone, and the girl shuts her eyes. It spots the remaining glass from the window on the floor, which makes it look outside. That's when it sees the small group fleeing. The monster jumps through the window, making everyone's eyes widen in fear. The man tells everyone to run. He's in the front carrying his daughter. The basketball boy urges everyone to run to the back. Meanwhile, the monster seems to be choosing its first target. Someone trips over a stone while running, and the monster immediately notices with its red eyes. Then it rushes forward to attack, revealing its massive tongue and sharp teeth. The boy on the ground is terrified, while the creature is eager to devour him. But the pitcher throws something at the monster. Now all the creature's attention shifts to him. The others keep running for their lives. The man soon spots the iron door and tries to open it, just like the earlier group did. He manages to open it, and those remaining enter. But Sang is very hesitant. She looks at the trio in danger, but the arrogant man yells at her to get in, scaring her. There's no choice but to comply, and when she enters, the man even closes the door, and not satisfied, locks it so there's no risk of someone else opening it. Worried about the others, she asks what he's doing. Then he points to the monster and says it's already too late for them, but she only says there was no need to lock it. He says they need as much time as possible. Sanga tries to say something, but he quickly interrupts and asks if she thought she'd survive without getting her hands dirty. He also says she shouldn't let her sense of justice cause everyone to be finished off. Annoyed, he walks past everyone. Sanga once again looks at his wife, who avoids eye contact. The woman tells her daughter Hee-jin that they should go. Sang was about to leave with them, until she notices Sung-jin standing there. Curious, she asks if he thinks the same way, and the boy looks quite intimidated. But he only says they wouldn't be able to save them. That answer leaves both of them upset with what happened. Meanwhile, Ju-seol and Sang-min are investigating the building. He shines his flashlight on the front of shop, and Ju-seol says it's something the guy didn't mention since no one asked about it. Then he says it's the time limit and the tutorial conditions. Hearing that scares Sang-min. He thinks it's no wonder the young man has the gold mark. Because of that, his plan is to reach the same level by staying by his side. Kang-suk doesn't have the same value. Ju-seol approaches the shop door. He's about to open it when the other asks him to wait. Sang-min says to leave it to him. After all, they don't know what might be waiting inside. And to reassure him, he says to use him for this kind of thing. The shop doesn't appear to have any danger or any sign that someone has been there. The man lights up the place with his phone's flashlight. Carefully, he walks through the area. Meanwhile, Ju-seol waits for him outside. The young man is calm as he waits, and taking advantage of the moment, he activates his 9 eyes ability. The store lights up completely in green. Then once again, the door opens, and Sang-mai says everything is clear inside. Trusting mostly in his ability, the young man simply agrees. The plan is to look for food and anything that could be useful in an emergency. While rummaging through a bag, Sang-mai says that with it they could beat up the monster, maybe even eliminate it. And thinking about that possibility, Ju-seol checks his own bag. Noticing this, the man comments that even the bags are different and that they divide things almost equally. Then Ju-seol realizes that this is the value of the golden mark. As they walk, Sang-mai asks if they're going to look for weapons, and the young man says they're heading straight up because there's something he needs to check. Pointing to the staircase, the young man says the waiting room is upstairs, which makes Sang-mai curious as to how he knows that. Then he shows the phone. This surprises the man, seeing a map he didn't receive, but it's all thanks to the privilege. Sang-mai asks if that means they don't need to go upstairs just yet. Tapping the screen, Ju-seol tells him to look. The map is highly zoomed in and detailed. He explains that the dots were all blue, but when Kang-suk and his group arrived, everything turned red, and the man asks if that worries him. Then he says the group has 3 people, and there are 3 red dots, which he doesn't believe is just a coincidence. Thinking it over, Sang-mai admits that it makes sense. Suddenly, something crosses his mind, and he asks if the first ones to arrive get the privileges. But Ju-seol says no because they would have been notified, so Sang-mai says the only thing left to do is check it out. The young man waits at the bottom of the stairs. From the top, Sang-mai looks around every corner, checking for danger. Seeing that everything's clear, he announces it's safe. While one is nervous, the other is completely relaxed. Pointing at a door, Sang-mai says he believes it leads to the first floor hallway and asks if they should search it. But Ju-seol says no, that they already have what they need and there's no reason to risk it. They calmly go up the stairs, but the one in front soon stops. Both are now on alert, and Ju-seol's calm is gone. Access to the second floor is blocked by bars. Both of them express their frustration, leaving the first floor as their only option. Ju-seol says they'd be totally screwed if a monster decided to come right to where they are. Frightened by that possibility, Sang-mai even gets chills. Their only option is the exit door. The 2 guys press their ears against the door to listen. Sang-mai speaks first, saying it's quiet and asks if they should open it. The doors slowly open, just to be safe. A terrible stench of death and red liquid hits their noses, and they both cover their noses with their hands. The hallway is completely red in every corner. All Sang-mai can say is that the place is not friendly. Ju-seol stands back from the door, then activates his 9 eyes ability. The hallway turns orange, and he understands that's the signal not to go near. The guy asks if they should try upstairs again. Maybe the bars are made of rubber. Ju-seol thinks about analyzing things using his eyes, so he tells his partner to give it a try. Back at the second floor entrance, Sang-mai asks if he thinks it might be electrified. And before the man touches it, Ju-seol tells him to wait. Once again, he activates his ocular ability. But to his surprise, no color appears. The man beside him asks what's wrong, not understanding the situation. But the young man with the golden mark only thinks that if it's not green, then it can't be something normal. He extends his hand, which passes right through the bars. Back to the monster's location. The young thrower is still in danger. His girlfriend is also terrified, clinging to him. The monster's footsteps echo around them. With only each other, the couple tightly holds hands. The monster is ready to attack, which makes the 2 young people squeeze their hands even tighter. Their only option is to run while the monster chases after them. Both are desperate, doing everything they can to survive. The young man looks back. He no longer sees the monster, but his girlfriend calls out to him. The creature is closer than they imagined. The monster prepares to strike them. Then comes the blow, with no mercy at all, while everyone watches it happen. The girlfriend calls his name, but the young man no longer reacts. Being even more cruel, the creature splits his body. Its macabre smile grows wider as the young man's vital fluids splatter everywhere. A sinister scream echoes through the night, and the other group hears it from inside the building. This leaves the man leading them with a mix of fear and concern. Being in front, he runs toward the stairs. On one of the steps, he steps on the red liquid from another possible victim. This activates the monster's sensors. The creature looks inside the building, and it has the ability to see through everything. That's how it locates the group. Then it lets out an even more terrifying scream. The two hear the scream and are frightened. Sanga tells the boy they need to run. First, she counts so he can prepare. And when she reaches 3, the two of them run. But the monster jumps through the window and quickly lands on the ground. The two are trapped with this creature. The monster roars again to terrify them. Scared by what's happening, Sanga calls out to Sungjai. This time, the boy seems determined to do something. From his bronze bag, a glow appears. He pulls out a kind of orb. Sungjai twists the object, activating the timer, and then draws the monster's attention. As soon as the creature looks, he throws the object. The 2 points are about to meet. It all happens very quickly. The object is already close to the monster when the 2 points collide. Then it explodes, lighting up everything and giving the two time to escape. The light is so strong it can be seen from outside. Thus, those left behind can see it. But the light doesn't last forever. One of the monster's eyes becomes sensitive due to the flash explosion. Searching for its victims, it no longer finds them. However, it has the trail that leads to the upper floor. The man places his hands on the bars. He tries to use force to push them apart. Then, in desperation, he screams for help. Suddenly, a window appears registering a new user. As a result, the bars begin to move. One by one, the bars retract. The man is happy about this, and his first thought is to get to the other side. Confidently, he tells his family there should be no problem. But as he crosses the threshold, the bars return. His wife approaches the bars, but it's too late. He doesn't understand why that happened. In despair, he tries to open them again. His wife and daughter call out to him. With little else to do, he tells them not to leave. The man looks around searching for help. Then he has no choice but to explore the long corridor. He notices people there. It's Kang Suk and his group. Desperate, he pleads for help for his wife and daughter. Mockingly, the silver-marked leader simply asks why he's making so much noise. The man explains that the bars won't move, and the young man only says he should handle things properly at his age. Then Kang Suk's focus changes. The man is on his knees begging for help, saying he doesn't know when the monster will appear again. This annoys the young man, who says the man is putting him in a tough spot and that if he doesn't help, he'll get a bad reputation. The man keeps begging for help. Kang Suk stands up and brushes the dust off his clothes. He says he's not usually like this, but if it's just this once. Then a terrifying sound is heard. This terrifies the man, imagining what it could be. In a rush, he stands and runs back to his family, stopping as soon as he arrives. His wife and daughter are upside down. The monster is holding both as they cry out to him. Kang Suk, arriving right behind, says what a shame. Without remorse, he says it looks like they arrived too late, but the man turns to him and once again begs for help as his final act of desperation. The young man looks seriously at him, then frees the arm the man is holding, only to point at the button on the wall. The man then looks at the object, wondering what to do. Kang Suk says it will open when he presses the button, however, that they arrived too late, but the man says it's not too late. He's about to press it when the young man asks if he can eliminate the monster. Kang Suk says that instead of asking for help, he should have been more careful while searching around. His wife calls out to him once again. Even with his hand near the button, the man hesitates, wondering whether he should do it or not. The young man says the only certain thing is that if he opens the iron bars, everyone will be wiped out. And with that, he tells him the choice is his, making it clear he'll hold no grudge. The screams of his family echo in his mind as he fears making a decision. Meanwhile, Ju Seal is touching the bar. A window appears for him, registering a new user. That makes him highly suspicious. Impressed, Sangmei asks how he did that, but not even the boy knows. Once again, he stops Ju Seal from going up casually, claiming there could be traps. But as soon as he moves closer, the bars return. Soon the entire path is closed off again. With that, Ju Seal believes is programmed to accept only one person. The young man looks at him, who's now in despair, but he simply turns his back and begins climbing the stairs. In desperation, Sangmei asks if he's really going to leave him behind. The young man stops halfway. He looks for something he knows should be there. Finding the red button, he presses it. The iron bars rise again. Without waiting a second, Sangmei walks through the path, which once more closes behind him. Almost out of breath, he says it was terrifying thinking he'd actually be abandoned. To his surprise, Ju Seal replies that the thought did cross his mind. As they go up the stairs, Sangmei asks if that was some kind of joke. Far ahead, the young man notices something. It's Kang Suk's two partners, who also notice them. But before anything can happen, the monster scream startles them. The cries of the mother and daughter continue, begging for help. As provocation, the monster uses them as bait. Kang Suk seems to feel no remorse and even enjoys watching the man in despair. His smile vanishes when he realizes people are approaching. Seeing the two, he asks if they decided to form a team. Ju Seal says nothing, just glances at the button from the corner of his eye. Kang Suk quickly states that only the man can press the button. Sangmei, observing everything, realizes that the authority goes to the first person who touches the bars. Ju Seal doesn't like his attitude, and Kang Suk seems to enjoy others suffering. Everyone looks outside. The monster is slamming against the iron bars. Agitated, it tries to force its way through. Kang-suk says that one almost scared him, but assures them that as long as the bars are there, it can't get in. And to make things worse, he says the story changes completely if the bars disappear. The man still hasn't made a decision, and his family keeps screaming for him. That bothers Jiku-seol, who wants to know what he can do for them beyond just watching. His golden bag begins to glow. He reaches inside to see what it is, until Sangmai puts a hand on his shoulder. The man gestures as if to say there's not much they can do, and both of them look toward the only person who can actually do something. The man still hasn't made his choice. He only cries in despair, and Jiku-seol understands the decision isn't theirs to make. With his head down, the man apologizes to his wife and his beloved daughter, Hee-jin. Even as they desperately beg not to be abandoned, the monster seems to understand the decision has been made, and the only thing the man does is turn his face away, not wanting to see the scene. The creature brings its bait close to its mouth. Then it chews them, making their fluids splatter. Jiku-seol watches in horror while Sangmai tries not to see anything. The monster wipes its mouth after finishing its meal. Then it finally turns and walks away. Defeated, the man collapses to the ground. He begins sobbing uncontrollably, which amuses Kang-suk. The young man says it's a shame, but that he made the right decision, and concludes by saying they should rest in peace. There was nothing that could have been done to save them, and Kang-suk rejoins his group to leave. Otherwise, they all could have been killed in vain. That's just how things are. After all, this place is a world where only the most capable survive. But for Jiku-seol, the real world has always been that way, and he wonders if he could have done the same thing. If instead of them it had been Manhwa who was captured, he wonders what he would have done. The man is alone in his suffering. Kang-suk and his friends talk as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, Jiku-seol and Sangmai seem shaken by what occurred. The young man tells him not to lose focus and says that in paradise things are even crazier. This surprises the other, who asks if they aren't already in paradise, since that's the name of the school. This shocks Sangmai, as he truly didn't know despite being from the gold tier. But Jiku-seol, a bit intimidated, says he only became one by chance. Still, the other guy says everyone must have their reasons, and that's why he won't ask anything else about it. He explains they're not in paradise but in the portal, which is why it's called the tutorial. Jiku-seol remembers what Hannah Kim told him about staying alive once he entered, and he realizes she was referring to this. Looking at the man, Sangmai comments that he doesn't understand how his whole family ended up taking part in this. He doesn't want to pity the man, but realizes that if he brought his wife and daughter into this place, he doesn't want to imagine what kind of life he had. Jiku-seol says everyone has their stories, something you'd never guess unless you had lived it. With a hint of malice, the guy agrees but says he doesn't even need to hear the man's story. Something grabs everyone's attention on the floor. A window pops up, alerting that Yoon-seol has arrived at the second floor's waiting room. The girl appears before them, and Kang-suk immediately starts provoking her, calling her the quiet one. But she doesn't pay any attention to it, and keeps walking her way. She then just leans against a corner away from everyone, and uses her hood to shield herself from their stares. Once again, Kang-suk comments on her behavior, saying she's just being her usual self. Meanwhile, Jiku-seol simply notes that now there are 6 of them. Paying attention, Sangmai asks what he means. It's about the iron bars in the waiting room. They're designed so the first ones to touch them get registered as users. This gives them the right to open or close the entrance. There are a total of 6 entrances. Kang-suk's team, being the first to arrive, claimed 3 of them. Jiku-seol figures that of the 3 remaining, he claimed 1. One belongs to the man who lost his family. And with Yoon-seol, all the entrances are now registered, but the guy still doesn't get the point. Sangmai realizes it's 1 person per entrance, but nothing quite makes sense to him yet. Summing up, Jiku-seol explains there's a 50% chance that the leftover people will find one of their entrances. That part, the man understands. Jiku-seol continues and asks if he thinks they'll just let the others walk in easily. And finally, he gets the point of concern. Meanwhile, the remaining group keeps climbing the stairs. Sangha is the first to notice the issue. They'd finally run into the iron bars. Not knowing what it is, she simply asks why it's blocked. The lady in red, impatient, tells her to move out of the way. In desperation, she screams, hoping someone will hear her. The guy behind her is scared and begs her to stay quiet so the monster doesn't hear. Soon, the one who owns that entrance comes down the stairs to see who it is. The group is startled by who's approaching. Impressed, Kang-suk says she actually made it there somehow, calling her a crybaby. This angers the woman, who asks who he's calling a crybaby. However, it's not about her. He's talking about Sangha. Just the sound of his voice irritates her. Trying to ignore it, she asks how she can get in. With a smile, he says it's simple, and tells her to look at the red button, explaining that it will open if he presses it. He makes it very clear that it only opens if he presses it, declaring himself as the owner of the entrance. This surprises Sangha, learning about that, but she tells him to stop messing around and just open it. Once again, the guy asks her to keep quiet. Everyone is afraid of attracting the monster's attention. The others also come down the stairs. Meanwhile, Sangha, desperate, begs him to open the entrance. But Seok-suk and his group just keep watching the 2 of them. Jiku-seol confirms that he's the owner, so he's the only one who can open it. And that makes the silver tier guy brag about it. Once again, Sangha pleads for the entrance to be opened. but he just refuses to do it. Furious, the lady in red demands he opens it now. But ironically, he says the decision to let them in isn't up to him. Then Sanga asks why he's acting like that. Holding a grudge, he asks who called him insignificant and selfish. While Sanga is hurt by this, the woman in red gets irritated. She grabs the bars, ready to curse him out. But the boy covers her mouth, afraid the monster might hear. The woman doesn't seem too concerned about that for now, while Sanga watches. She sighs, preparing herself for what she's about to do. Then she apologizes for the insult back in the auditorium and says the people with her are innocent, and you shouldn't play with their lives. Kang Seok asks if she's telling the truth, and she agrees. Still, he says he has no choice and wants her to prove it. He proposes letting the other four in, but she'll have to stay behind. The man asks what she'll do, since the monster could show up at any moment. Sang lets out a long sigh. She's trembling from the whole situation. The woman in red grabs her hand. She asks if Sanga is really doing this for them and says they'll go in first and find a way to open it for her later. Her gaze is intimidating. Then Sanga simply steps away from them. Meanwhile, Kang Suk celebrates, calling himself a martyr. He finally presses the button, raising the bars, and everyone rushes through to save themselves. But Sung Jin turns around to look at her. She seems shaken but not regretful about her decision. And the boy just looks away. The other two call out to her, but the woman just ignores them. Sung Jin runs past Kang Suk. He races up the stairs in desperation, and as soon as he reaches the button, he presses it. But nothing happens and he's left confused. He tries multiple times frantically. Kang Suk tells him not to waste time, saying he already told him only he can open it. Sung Jin rushes at him in anger, but someone holds him back, stopping him from doing anything. Minwoo slams the boy to the ground with full force, while Sangha watches, calling out to him. Kang Suk mocks the boy, saying he's desperate to get eliminated, and even asks if she offered to be his new sister. But Sung Jin just begs him to open the gate. Kang Suk calls him all sorts of names and says he might not open it if the boy keeps annoying him. From the gate, Sangha asks if he's going to open it, and in response, he just says it depends on her. Hugh Seal silently watches the whole situation. The woman asks what he wants her to do. He says he doesn't believe in words and asks her to sincerely apologize, but Sangha asks if she needs to kneel. Kang Suk says to cut the act because it's leading nowhere, and the only thing he asks is for her to take everything off. Everyone not in his group is shocked by this demand, but Kang Suk says he'll feel better with a dance, and being a generous guy, he'll let her keep her underwear. Obviously, she refuses, calling him sick. So he says it's no problem. She can just go try the other gate. He makes it clear that his partners, Hyun-sik and Minwoo, also control other gates. He asks what she's waiting for, and if she's not going to go, she should get lost. With no other option, she just accepts it. Kang Suk pressures her and says she has 10 seconds to take off her pants. With a malicious smile, he tells her to start. It's too much for Sangha. Yoo Seol watches in anger. He thinks about stepping in, but Sangmai stops him. He says he doesn't like what's happening either, but they can't do anything since only the strong survive. As the seconds are counted down, Sangha begins removing her clothes, trembling from the situation. Kang Seok and his group enjoy the humiliation, the woman thinks. For Joo Seol, if survival belongs to the strongest, then he believes he'll have to show them. The young man is determined to prove who's truly the strongest here by activating his native ability, Future Vision. After taking off her bottoms, Sangha lowers her head. The poor woman starts shaking. With a wicked smile, Kang Suk asks if she's ready to take off the top. With no choice, she starts to comply. He notices she's crying and tells her it's not the time for that, reminding her she has to dance before the monster comes back. He's caught off guard by Joo Seol. The man asks if he came to join the party. The only thing Joo Seol says is for him to open it. That puts Kang Suk on alert. At first, he wasn't angry because he's not the kind of person to stand up for strangers. But upon hearing the request made for the woman, then seeing Sung Jin lying on the floor, a small plea for help made by him, Joo Seol took a moment to understand what the boy had said, and it was as if something inside him had been triggered. He can only think that if he had taken the initiative with Seola, maybe things would have gone differently. However, he won't hesitate anymore. As for Kang Suk, he doesn't get it. To him, the situation feels weird, like he's afraid. His own reaction worries him. He then stands up to face his possible opponent. Kang Suk asks why he should even listen to him, even if the reason is because he's gold tier. But Joo Seol just stares at him with disgust. That irritates him, and Kang Suk says he tried to be nice since he was also invited, and asks if he thinks he's some kind of saint among them. But Joo Seol continues without saying a single word. Behind him, Kang's group declares they're going to take him down. Two of them come down the stairs to surround him. Sangmai also descends, even though he doesn't like the way things are going. But Joo Seol just signals for him not to come. That shocks him. Seol simply drops his gold pouch on the ground. Meanwhile, Kang Suk mocking him by calling him homeless, says he's just acting tough because he's in front of a girl, and warns that the more he does this, the less he feels like opening the entrance. Suddenly, a punch is thrown at him. It was so fast that his friends didn't even react, but they weren't forgotten. Each of them also got punched. All three are on the ground while everyone watches stunned. Sangmai wonders how it happened since he didn't see any of them get hit. Kang Suk, holding his injured nose, curses him again. Joo Seol grabs him by the wrist and drags him upstairs. and forces him to press the button. The bars begin to rise, and he orders Sanga to enter. The woman is shocked by what just happened, but ends up stepping in, leaving some of her clothes behind. Kang-suk yells for him to let go, saying it's over. He calls for Minwoo, who's watching the scene with his nose also bruised. Then Ju-seol orders him to bring her pants. Remembering the missing items, Sanga says she'll get it, but that's not how he wants it. He tells her to stay while the other one should fetch it, and Minwoo asks why him. Ju-seol says it's what he deserves for hitting younger people and inflicting more pain on Kang-suk. He says that just like the man claimed, he really is a saint. Even more humiliated, Kang-suk demands his lackey go get it already. To help the situation, the lady in red urges him to hurry before the monster shows up. That just makes Minwoo more afraid, and Ju-seol gives him 10 seconds to do it. The big guy runs as the countdown begins. He quickly grabs the missing clothes and returns. He barely avoids being hit by the bars. Ju-seol, who had been holding Kang-suk by force the whole time, finally lets him go. But Kang-suk still has the nerve to curse at him. The young man remains silent. Still crying, Sanga thanks him for what he did. Even in silence, Sung-jin does the same. Sangma, however, looks at him deeply shaken. The young man carries a very different aura now. The hatred inside him has not yet been calmed. There's an annex that leads to a second building. The entire group is now together. The alert says to go to classroom 3-1 on the 4th floor of the main building through the 3rd floor annex with a 2-hour time limit. Ju-seol checks the message on his phone. With nothing else to do, he walks through the glass door. On the other side, he walks down a long corridor. Meanwhile, footage of what's happening is displayed on a large screen for a few people. One of them comments that the second mission is now beginning. They discuss how 20 people have already failed just in the first phase and believe that at this rate they won't be able to hold things together until September. Hannah Kim, standing at the front, simply watches them. The guy seems to feel intimidated, while the woman just pretends not to notice. The man turns around and asks if the other knows anything about the performance in the other areas. The young man says that in terms of difficulty, areas 2 and 7 are the toughest. The answer doesn't please him. He says he could understand if it were Europe, but wants to know what the problem is with the Chinese. It seems they're completing the missions and sacrificing contracts when necessary. Worried, the man asks about Area 2. And the young man says that a French girl named Delphine is carrying everyone using her initial bonus and eliminating the Spectre. He also wants to know about the rest. Area 5 is fighting well, but nothing extraordinary, and their second mission started 30 minutes before theirs. This makes the man lament, saying that at this rate there won't be anyone left by the end of the tutorial. But the woman reminds him they have someone with the gold mark, though he doesn't really believe in it. She reminds him that she was able to scare off the Spectre just by looking at it. Hannah Kim remains silent in the face of the situation. Meanwhile, Ju-seol kicks the glass. This catches the man's attention, and he asks what's gotten into him for acting without thinking about the consequences. The one in purple believes he didn't analyze the mission's contents properly. Then he asks Hannah Kim if they should trust the boy. Annoyed, she simply tells him to shut up. But even she wonders if Ju-seol is really worth the risk. The afternoon sun lights the building in an orange hue. The two employees smoke during their break, and the bald man asks what's up with Hannah Kim. To him, it makes no sense that she gave the gold mark to a guy who was supposedly under a slave contract. The younger man agrees and says she must clearly know who he was. And the bald man replies that he's the kind of guy who used to gamble in casinos while his family and girlfriend struggled. He can't see how the gold mark fits. The gold mark is Hannah Kim's personal item, so he can't ask her directly, afraid the single woman might flip on him. The younger guy warns that if he keeps talking like that, he'll get in trouble, and adds that their leader is around 30 years old. The bald man doesn't seem to like that response. He asks why he's being so aggressive defending her. Either way, he tells him they should get back so they don't get reprimanded for not monitoring things properly. The young man gets up to follow him. He gives a small smile as well. The man opens the door to return to the monitoring room, and he thinks that some idiot is activating all the traps. His eyes widen at what he sees on the screen. The beast trap has been activated. Then it fires its spears to attack. But Ju-seol defends himself, dodging the first arrow. He uses the iron rod to block the others. He strikes at the spears to defend himself. Everything is being broadcast on the screen. This seems to greatly concern the man. Ju-seol observes more details of the place. Then he steps on a false floor panel. More spears are triggered to attack him. The young man is fast and precise. All the spears are struck before any of them can hurt him. The last one comes straight for his head, but it hits the ground instead. A red liquid begins to drip from the arrow. The woman in purple stands up, worried that the young man has died. But the man says he just dodged it. He noticed that after deflecting the side spears, it looked like he would do the same with the ones from the ceiling. The woman tries to understand better why he didn't, but the man isn't sure. It felt like Ju-seol's body wasn't following his commands. Shocked, she asks if he thinks that, besides being able to see the spears coming from different directions, he also tried to reflect them. The boy behind them doesn't really understand the conversation, but the man is desperate, asking how Ju-seol managed to do that. Frantically, he goes to her wanting to know. The man believes it's like he was already an Earthling, but Hannah Kim just asks what the record is for fastest completion time of the second mission. This time, the younger guy stands up and mentions Sung Shaihen. His record is 29 minutes and 39 seconds. She says that's insane, drawing the attention of the other woman who asks what she means. Suddenly, the completion of Area 1's second mission is announced. They wait for the time taken to be revealed. Everyone in the room is shocked, except for Hannah Kim, who smiles because she thought he was just a useless guy. But Yoo Seol only took 16 minutes and 24 seconds to complete the mission. To her, he's a winning lottery ticket. The mission passers earn room 3-1. Han congratulates everyone for reaching the 4th floor and asks if the first and second lessons were fun. The room isn't as crowded as it was in the auditorium. Yoo Seol doesn't seem very excited, just like the rest of the survivors. Sang-mai is also keeping to himself while staring toward the back of the room. In the last row of seats sit Kang-suk and his team. Yoo Se-ra is also distant from the others. As for the man, he keeps his head down, but Han is pleased with everything. He then says the good news is that there's only one part left of the tutorial. This surprises Sang-ah, who asks if there's still more. Han confirms but tells her not to worry. He says it's an easy mission that might even turn out to be fun. That makes some of them suspicious, especially because of how easy it sounds. Han says it will be, as long as they follow the rules, and he specifies that each one must follow them. Sung Jin and Sang all look at each other a bit suspiciously. Han explains that all they have to do is go from the 4th floor to the 5th of the main building and reach the 6th floor. However, he says there will be a few rules. Using chalk, he draws a circle on the blackboard. He asks if they've ever heard of a treasure hunt competition, but no one answers anything, just waiting for an explanation. Letting out a sigh, Han says he'll just get this over with. The man begins by saying that coins are scattered all over the 4th and 5th floors. They'll have to collect as many coins as possible tonight, and those coins will be used for tolls and the roulette machine. The lady in red immediately asks about the roulette and the toll. Han says it's on the 6th floor. That's where the door to paradise opens. That grabs everyone's attention, especially Yoo Seol. However, the man says it's not a free snack, and the toll costs 100 coins. Even Kang-suk is worried about how he'll get that many coins. Han says there are 3,000 coins scattered around, and 100 of them are easy to get, especially for those who have a map. Meanwhile, Yoo Se-ra fiddles with the pocket of her hoodie. Continuing, Han says the roulette machine is on the 5th floor, and if they manage to get enough coins, encourages them to use it. With that, they'll be able to get items that will help a lot. Sang-ai is curious to know what kind of items they can get. He explains there are food supplies and essential items, but if they're lucky, they might find protective gear, weapons, and magic orbs. And getting the attention of Sung Jin and the other man, he says that maybe, just maybe, they could find something that brings the dead back to life. He says that while it's possible, it's not easy, and it's not right to treat life as something trivial. The man was about to sneak away, but of course, he was caught. Han says he won't find any coins because the mission only starts exactly 30 minutes after his explanation. In silence, the man accepts that there's nothing more he can do at the moment. Then Yoo Seol asks why items like that appear in the roulette machine, and Han responds with another question, asking why they wouldn't be available. Grabbing everyone's attention, the young man asks why they need something like that if the mission is supposed to be easy and fun. That makes Han smile. He praises the question and says that he's not just listening, but actually thinking. Clicking on his own phone, he says the answer is there. Everyone receives the notification and immediately checks their phones. Han gives a warning and tells them to beware of the hour of the dead, as they despise anything living. That catches the attention of those who are grieving. He says that with everyone cooperating, the mission will be easy, making it clear that's only if they truly work together. Everyone gathers, and Sang-mai already says there's something off. He asks if opening the entrance to the 6th floor will also open the bars on the 2nd, and if so, the monster will come up. The girl suggests opening the entrance and waiting there for 30 minutes. Then Sang-mai asks what she would do if the thing was waiting there. Almost losing it, he says there's nothing easy or fun about this. Surprisingly, Yoo Seol says that maybe it is. He suggests gathering a bunch of coins until midnight and then waiting until noon to use the roulette and get weapons. After that, they open the entrance to the 6th floor. He stops talking, realizing something's wrong. The others don't understand. From Yoo Seol's expression, something is clearly off. Then the rules for the treasure hunt appear. Rule 1, use classroom 3-1 as your base. Rule 2, spirits of the dead and monsters will be active from midnight to noon. Rule 3, neither the dead nor the monsters can enter the base. 4 can use 199 coins to get a key or 499 coins to open the door on the 6th floor. 5, the portal is generated in the central area 30 minutes after the door on the 6th floor is opened. 6, as soon as the 6th floor door is opened, the bars on the 2nd floor will be deactivated. This seems a bit scary for some. However, the lady in red notices that some people are no longer in the room. Cooperation is what Yoo Seol understands will be the first obstacle and one of the biggest problems. Meanwhile, Sang-mai asks if he wants to eat, saying there's still time before the mission starts. To him, it's not a bad idea and seems appropriate, while Sang is eavesdropping on their conversation. The woman asks if there's anything to eat. Everything edible is laid out on the table. The others are very surprised by so much variety. Sanga asks where they got all of it. It's Sangmai who explains that while everyone ran to the waiting room, Juseal said something. If it's a simple mission, why would they give us 4 hours? So after some searching, they found a convenience store. Everyone is truly surprised by this. Delighted, the girl says he's not just good at fighting, but not everyone seems happy about it. All the food starts getting devoured. Juseal keeps swallowing everything he finds. He's not just eating, he's also hydrating. That leaves him quite satisfied. Sanga was watching him and says he eats a lot, so she offers her sandwich, surprising him. Although he feels a little shy, Juseal accepts and thanks her. The woman in red is clearly not pleased and can only think that the other one is melting for him. She gets between the two of them and signals to them. Then she whispers something only they can hear. Meanwhile, Juseal finishes eating and wonders if he's always been this much of a glutton. Either way, he opens a can of soda as the others watch. One of the boys comments about being able to revive the dead. That makes Sungjin a little sad. The boy talks about a friend who came with him, but something happened in the auditorium and the girl also lost someone. Then the two begin to cry. That leaves Juseal unsure of what to do in that situation. But it's Sangmai who speaks up. He tells them to cut it out. Frustrated, he says it was already enough that Seal fed and carried them. Does he also need to save their friends? The boy defends himself, saying that's not what he meant. But Sangmai tells him to go save his friend and follow what the guide said, collect coins and get items. The two are left speechless. But the man keeps talking and asks if they have any idea where they're going and what it's like in paradise to say such things. However, it's the lady in red who steps in and asks if he knows what it's like. And he confirms in a few words, it's every man for himself. That causes outrage, and the other boy talks about them needing to cooperate. Then Sanga repeats that they should cooperate, but not take advantage of others. And she asks if the definition of cooperation has changed. All this sparks discord between the two groups. Sungjin is silent and disconnected from everything happening. Then Juseal yells for them to stop. It works, making everyone go quiet. He tells them to look at the clock before they start a fight. They all look nervously at the clock, and then at their phones, which show that there are only 5 hours left until midnight. The base room door opens. Sangmai announces that he can't work with people like them. Likewise, the other group says they don't intend to go with them as they exit through another door. That irritates the lady in red, who walks over to them. Sungjin and Sanga stay in the room. She asks the boy if they should go. So Juseal is left alone in the room. To him, the focus is on the first task, and everything else comes after collecting coins. That makes him wonder where he should go first. His phone starts vibrating in his pants pocket. He takes it out to see what it is. What he sees on the screen makes him nervous. He receives coin locations from an unknown sender, including inside the podium meant for teachers. He looks toward the place where Han was standing when she was announcing the rules. Soon he walks over to search. He finds at least 4 coins, but the young man finds it odd, thinking it was too easy. In room 3 to 8, Yoon Seora is also searching for coins. Juseal ends up entering that same room. The man's gaze turned to specific people. Then Juseal thought that Yoon Seora had a map. However, he finds it odd that the girl is searching all over the place. Something catches the girl's attention. She finally manages to find a single coin, which impresses the boy greatly. While Juseal is lost in his own world, Yoon Seora becomes embarrassed upon realizing she was being watched. The girl turns to leave, and he thinks that she's able to smile. Then he rummages through a wallet. That way he finds more coins, totaling 12. While celebrating, out of the corner of his eye, he notices something. Yoon Seora is staring at him, blinking to hold back tears. A bit awkwardly, Juseal wishes her good luck, which leaves the girl a little confused, until something runs through her mind. Meanwhile, he searches through room 3 to 7. More coins are found so easily that it's no fun to him anymore. With the task complete, he heads toward the exit door. As soon as he opens it, he comes face to face with Yoon Seora. The girl then turns her face to look inside. She sees that only one locker has been opened. Then she stares at Juseal, who tries to act natural. Yoon Seora starts blinking again, making a crying face. That makes Juseal a bit nervous, and she's so embarrassed that she even lowers her head. But each of them goes their separate way. Yoon Seora is holding a piece of paper, still the sad look. It's a map with information on where the coins are located. Juseal even takes a glance to see how she's doing, and thinks about passing by room 3 to 8 one more time. Looking at the map, in room 3 to 9, there are 3 coins on the teacher's podium and 1 coin on the TV cabinet. Something catches his attention. It's Yoon Seora running in with a frightened expression. Not understanding why, Juseal runs from her. Each one enters through a different door in the room. The two stare at each other like true opponents. Then they race to see who can reach the podium first. Luck is on Juseal's side with the 3 coins. The girl jumps to reach another spot. The boy watches her, confused. She jumps desperately to get the coin on top of the TV. Her eyes start filling with tears again. As he watches, Juseal can only think that she should use one of the desks to reach it. Each failed attempt leaves her more desperate, until the boy surprises her by saying he'll get it for her. He only needs to lift 1 foot to reach the coin. From that angle, the girl notices the red stain on his shirt. Without much effort, he grabs the coin. With a smile, he offers it to her. But the girl seems intimidated. Instead of taking the coin, Yoon Seora just runs off, and he wonders if he ended up hurting her pride. There are 10 minutes left until midnight, and the current scores are Hyun Sang-mai with 100 coins, Shin San-ah with her 70 coins, Juku Seo with a surprising 1,552 coins, but Yoon Seora with 0 coins. The phones light up the dark room. Sang-mai and Sang-ah are each sitting in a chair. Ju Seol opens the door, startling them both. The boy asks where the others are since it's almost the hour of the dead. Sang-mai says it's kind of obvious. He also wondered if he would return, but did once he managed to get 100 coins. A little later, Sang-ah says he's lucky, since she only got 70. Then Ju Seol simply dumps out coins and declares that now she has 100. The woman is surprised by the 30 coins and asks if he's really giving them to her just like that. Sang-mai is impressed, and the boy asks if he wants some too. Surprised, he asks how many coins he got, and the boy just says enough to survive. Then Sang-mai realizes it wasn't Yoon Seora who was collecting them all like he thought. Mentioning her catches Ju Seol's attention, who asks what's the issue with her. The man asks if he hasn't noticed she has a map. Ju Seol thinks he wasn't the only one who noticed. Suddenly he stands up, startling Sang-mai, who asks what happened. And he just responds that Yoon Seora is in danger. That puts them on alert. And the man even suggests that the problem could be Kang-suk. Ju Seol just nods in agreement. Suddenly, the phone starts vibrating. Not just his, but everyone's. The alert says the hour of the dead has begun. The moon lights up the whole room. Some drawers are open and things are overturned. Meanwhile, Sung Jin is looking for coins. He struggles to move whatever's in his way. Carefully, he pushes aside the glass vases. And so he gains access to a single coin. The boy reaches out just inches away, but the coin slips from his grasp. The object hits the floor before he can catch it, and it rolls under the tables. Sung Jin then looks for the coin, unconcerned with everything around him. Desperately, he searches for the coin that should be nearby. Using the flashlight, he lights the area and finally finds it. But suddenly, a drop of red liquid falls beside him. The boy stands up to see what it is. A sinister silhouette is floating there. To get a better view, he shines the flashlight at it. His eyes widen when he realizes who it is. Sung Jin calls out to his deceased sister. The creature has its back turned and begins to face him, until her fully zombified face is revealed. Shocked, the boy falls to the ground. The dead girl calls out her brother's name. Terrified, the boy asks if it's really her, and the creature tells him to get up quickly. Sung Jin does as she asks, but keeps asking if it's really her. The spirit tells him to search, and the boy assumes she means the coins and tells her not to worry. Seal Av opens her horrifying mouth, causing more liquid to spill grotesquely. Frightened by the sight, he says he'll do anything to save her. And the ghost simply calls out to him, saying he is hers. With tears of blood, she says she'll always love him. Then the boy leaves the room. His expression is very serious, and he's determined to do whatever it takes to bring his sister back. Sung Jin is at the entrance of the girl's bathroom, a place he hasn't searched yet, and he thinks he probably won't find anything. The boy shines his light toward the end of the hallway. Then he starts walking away from the bathroom, but suddenly he stops. His mind is disturbed, thinking that he has to do whatever it takes to save his sister. Meanwhile, in room 3-1, Sang asks if Ju Seol is really going out to look for the girl. He says he'll return as soon as he finds Yoon Seora and Sung Jin. In a cool tone, Sang-mai says that if he's the leader, he'll follow. But a terrifying scream suddenly startles them. The three of them look out the window. Sung Jin sees something truly horrifying. It scares him so much he drops his phone. The trio runs to reach him, and Ju Seol asks what happened. Still scared, the boy can only stammer the word Numa. As the guys enter the bathroom, Sang asks the boy if he's talking about his sister. The voice of one of the guys scares Sang-a. In the bathroom, they find Yoon Seora lying on the floor and badly injured. Sang-a quickly removes her shirt and rips pieces off with her teeth. She says the girl will die if they don't do something. Desperate, Sang-mei asks what to do and where to find a medical room to treat her, and the woman says they need to find something. But he doesn't know what to look for since there's nothing around. Then Sung Jin says there should be alcohol in the science lab. However, the boy says there's a problem. Worried, Sung Jin immediately asks what it is. The boy brings up his sister, and Jivu Seol quickly understands that when they mentioned the dead, they meant those who died there. But Sang-mai reminds them that they were warned to be careful, but claims the boy is fine, and the other says it's because they're siblings. Sung Jin defends his sister, saying she doesn't hurt anyone and that he only found Nuna because she asked him to search. Seol still thinks it's dangerous. Sang-a says alcohol won't be enough and that they need to prepare in case she goes into shock. Desperate, Sang-mei asks how they would do that since there's no pharmacy nearby. Despite the situation, Ju Seol remains calm and says there's a way. Then he remembers the roulette. Sang-mei's phone vibrates, alerting a message. The locks on the 6th floor door have been deactivated, as well as the bars on the 2nd floor. The portal will be generated in 30 minutes. It's Sang-mai who takes action and says he has an idea. They go to the library, and the coins are used on the roulette. An object rolls out. This time it's a disinfectant. They keep the healing item for themselves. Sangmai says he'll carry these for now, and Ju-seol asks him to go ahead while he grabs a few more. The man says he'll deliver the medicine and that if he doesn't return in 2 minutes, something must have happened to him. But Ju-seol doesn't seem to care much about that. So the guy leaves. Alone, the young man wonders what's wrong with him. But to him, they're strangers, and it doesn't matter whether they live or die. The image of his beloved appears in his mind, asking how he ended up this way. He sighs and puts the coins back into the roulette machine. The boy manages to collect a good amount of medicine, but his expression is quite sad. Worried, Ju-seol believes more than 2 minutes have passed. He then goes down the stairs and finds a group gathered. That makes him curious to know what's going on. At the entrance of room 3-1 are Kang-suk and his group. The man welcomes him. Noticing his approach, Sangmai says it's an entry denial spell. But without saying a single word, Ju-seol steps forward. It throws a punch, hitting a magic shield. Holding an item, Kang-suk says it's useless. He says he activated it with a special scroll, so no one can enter without his permission. Ju-seol asks if he opened the 6th floor door, and he confirms. Then he asks why. Mocking him, Kang-suk asks what reason he thinks he had to do it. Ju-seol figures he must have struggled to pay for the ticket, since the two with maps collected most of the coins. That triggers a thought in the boy. He remembers Yoon-sia were injured. Smiling, Kang-suk says he needed 2 conditions for everything to work, and it only did because Ju-seol left headquarters. The boy says nothing, and Kang-suk says he was sure he would leave since a saint wouldn't just stand by and watch. Ju-seol's gaze is threatening. However, the group doesn't seem intimidated. From the dark corridor, a scream is heard. Frightened, everyone realizes it's the loose monster. Ju-seol says he won't make it to the 6th floor if the monster reaches them first. But unconcerned, Kang-suk shows another scroll. The boy in the cap begs to be allowed in. He says he didn't do anything wrong, and Ju-seol thinks he's implying that he did. Agreeing with him, Kang-suk says they probably think it's unfair. So he grants entry permission to the 3 of them. The 3 look at each other, distrustful of everything and everyone. But without hesitation, they run through the barrier and go straight into the room. The rest remain outside while they are protected. But luckily, Ju-seol is grateful he came prepared. Pulling something from his pocket, he knows he has no choice but to put an end to this. To provoke him, Kang-suk asks what he and Sangmai plan to do. Ju-seol is simply alert to everything around him. He puts his hand in his pants pocket, but when he pulls it out, it's empty, surprising Sangmai, who expected some kind of weapon. This time, Kang-suk mocks Sung-jin, asking if the boy just wants to be devoured like his sister. He even says the boy will make his sister cry and that she must be dying to be rescued by him. Then he shifts focus to Sangmai and says he's already done everything and asks why he's worried about Ju-seol, since he's a realistic guy. He adds that no one will blame them. It's a matter of life and death. The two exchange glances as they consider their choices. Sangmai apologizes to Ju-seol and he and Sung-jin accept the offer. The two finally enter room 3-1. But Sang-ah and Yoon-sia are still outside. She becomes Kang-suk's next focus, and he asks what got into her, that taking off her pants was enough to turn her into an exhibitionist. Then he says it's a joke. The man says he realized she was trying to stop the bleeding and considers it an admirable act. Then asks if she knows she could catch a cold like that. Right after, he takes off his jacket and offers it to her. That leaves Sang-ah completely shocked by his gesture. Kang-suk says she can come in too. From the portal of the room, Sangmai looks at her, giving her a signal. The woman gets up from the ground, and then she's the next to pass through the shield. Extending the jacket, Kang-suk says she made the right choice. Sang-ah reaches out to take the jacket, but then Kang-suk suddenly pulls it back and pulls her into his arms. He tells her to stay quiet, claiming she knew what would happen when she chose that side. That doesn't sit well with her, and she tries to say something, but he asks if she prefer to go back to the other side. So all she can do is accept it. Kang-suk smiles at how easily she gave in, and asks Ju-seol how it feels to be abandoned. Provoking him, he asks if the great gold tear isn't going to say anything, then says it's a shame and that they're not on Earth anymore. And no one will ever know even if he plays the Good Samaritan. His attitude changes and Kang-suk grabs Sang-ah by the hair. He says she's just an example of someone who stuck to Ju-seol to take advantage, and now the game has changed. The man doesn't care that the weak need help and asks if all strong people are bad and all weak ones good. Kang-suk says it doesn't matter who wins or loses, and that Yahello died even though she had bronze, while Sang-ah made it this far. Ju-seol simply replies that victory is victory, and Kang-suk agrees, saying he's pretty smart. As men, he suggests they let the past go and start over. The man then extends his hand. However, he wants an apology and claims his nose still hurts from when he was hit. That makes Ju-seol very thoughtful. He then closes his eyes. Kang-suk says he's not asking for much, just an apology. That should be enough for them to be friends. But Ju-seol's only response is to tell him to go to hell. That pisses him off. A burst of light explodes behind him. Kang-suk quickly turns to see what it is. Minwoo seems to have been hit by something. The man collapses to the ground, unconscious. None of them saw what happened, which makes everything more terrifying. Slowly, Sangmai starts to appear. Holding the iron rod, he says it's showtime. Then he knocks out the next thug. Kang-soo quickly looks toward the chair. Desperate, he tries to run to it, but the chair slowly begins to disappear until it vanishes completely, leaving him scared and confused. He's the next one to get hit. This time it was Sungjin who did it. Angry, the boy asks who he thinks he is to say bad things about his sister. That makes Kang-suk even more furious. He then threatens to eliminate everyone. His next move is to try to activate the scroll, but Sanga rushes in to stop it. She stomps hard on his hand with her heel. While crushing it, she says she's never in her life met someone so terrible and perverted. Then she aims between his legs. She hits him there and says she's never met anyone like him. Sanga then looks at him. Finally, Kang-suk is knocked out by her blow. Suddenly, a change occurs in the field, but Ju-seol just wants to understand what all of that was. It's Sang-mai who explains he used a disguise spell and that he gave them a signal before coming in, and luckily, they both noticed. He still stays silent. Sang-mai asks if he really thought he had been betrayed, but the young man says he's still not sure. The man then wants to ask him something. Sang-mai says that before it all started, he noticed Ji-hoo was about to grab a magic orb, but then gave up. He wants to understand why. But then Ju-seol says he wanted to see it with his own eyes, even if just once. That leaves everyone confused. Then he says he simply wanted to see how they would behave when cornered, and Sanga gets irritated for being tested. The young man just shrugs. Sang-mai asks if they passed. In response, Ju-seol just smiles, and they all burst into laughter. However, it doesn't last long because Ju-seol picks up a sound coming from the stairs. The young man looks back and Sang-mai, concerned, asks what's going on. Something is coming up the stairs. It's the wide-mouthed monster. While carrying Ju-seol, Sang-mai tells everyone to hurry. Ju-seol looks annoyed at the prospect of another fight, but soon the base room doors close. They look through the window. The heavy footsteps are heard. The monster looks into each room, searching for its victims. It soon finds room 3-1. The lady in red asks if it really can't come in, and Sanga tells her to be quiet. The monster finds something very interesting. It sees Minwoo unconscious on the floor. Then the creature devours him right in front of everyone. The door to 3-1 is opened. Trembling with fear, Kang-suk begs for help. No one moves, wondering if they should do it or not. He's already almost hopeless on the ground, until someone approaches him. It's Sanga, still furious about everything she went through with him and with no desire to help. She kicks him, trying to push him out. However, Kang-suk grabs her foot. His attitude makes him angry even with the danger outside. Sanga doesn't understand what he's trying to do, until she's pulled to the ground. The two of them are dragged by the monster, and everyone else just keeps watching it happen. Sanga struggles to make Kang-suk let her go. He's satisfied to have her trapped there, until this smile fades. It's his turn to be devoured by the monster, that he still keeps holding on to her. Kang-suk declares that there's no way he's going to be eliminated alone. His eyes lose all life. The monster devours him even more, but his hand is still keeping Sanga trapped there. She struggles desperately to break free. The lady in red watches and says the same thing will happen to her if she stays outside. Sungjin grabs a mop, not wanting to just stand and watch. Sang-mai understands he wants to help, but tells him not to use something so useless. Out of the corner of his eye, he notices Ju-seol rummaging through his bag. The boy is deep in thought. Meanwhile, the monster outside keeps chewing, and Sanga cries out in desperation for help. The two men go to her. She reaches out her hand to grab them. They hold on to her and use all their strength to pull her. The two were almost being dragged along with her. Even with their effort, the monster is too strong. A cracking sound is heard as the creature's jaw snaps shut, releasing the only thing left of Kang-suk. Everyone falls to the ground, but the monster is already ready for its next meal, mouth wide open. Sang-mai gives the signal and Ju-seol gets ready. Taking advantage of the open mouth, he throws the orb. Inside the monster, everything starts bubbling. Several explosions begin to erupt. The monster thrashes around, slamming into every wall. Another grenade is thrown at it. It lands right on its timer points, causing a net-like explosion above the monster, which ends up trapped in a snare. Ju-seol then gets ready for the final blow. He throws another of those orbs, which syncs with the timer, and explodes above the monster. Drops like lava begin to fall. The monster screams in pain as the burning liquid sears it. Little by little, it starts to melt away, until nothing remains of the creature that died just as cruelly as it treated its victims. Everyone is shaken by the scene, and Sang-mai thinks it's insane and is surprised that the boy actually pulled it off. Sanga says he's amazing for being able to do all that with just a few magic orbs. But Ju-seol says he was just lucky to have a good combo available. The monster is completely defeated, and all he can think is that the guide was right when he said they'd get through it easily if they work as a team. The boy turns as he feels a pat on his back. Sang-mai says it's okay, and that the result alone is already a miracle, and the young Sungjin celebrates, agreeing with that. Even without much emotion, Ju-seol thinks he's right, but then he notices that the older man is missing and everyone else turns their faces away without giving an answer. So Sang-mai says he's probably still looking for coins to bring his family back and ease the guilt he feels. Ju-seol just keeps staring. Meanwhile, the old man is still searching for coins. A sound comes from behind him. Not understanding, he turns around, and his eyes go wide at what he sees. What he witnesses is the most terrifying thing. His deceased wife is carrying her own head, while his daughter crawls like a zombie baby. Falling to the ground, he says he was wrong and that he's going to save them. He begs his wife and his beloved Hee-jin, but apparently they're not there to forgive him. Joo-seol sits with his head down at one of the desks while Sang-mei devours his food in the background. Drowsy, he gets up, realizing everything is bright now, then looks at the clock on the wall. He asks about the others and Sang-mei says they're out searching for the treasure. The boy asks if Yoon Seora went too, and the man says the girl only has an injured arm, not her legs, and even Sung-jin went out. Then he asks about Sang-ah, and Sang-mei says she went to help the two, and this time Joo-seol asks about him. The man says someone had to keep an eye on him, and Seol remembers there are still 3 hours left before the hour of the dead ends. Sang-mei says the dead won't be scary now that they dealt with the specter and asks what he's going to do since he has all the coins. Joo-seol thinks about what he'll do. He then leaves the room. After paying 100 for the toll, the boy is left with 785 coins and still doesn't know what to use them on. He climbs the last step of the floor and immediately runs into Sung-jin, who comes running in fear. The two nearly bump into each other. The boy apologizes and Joo-seol says it's fine and asks if he had any luck searching for coins. Half embarrassed, he replies that he only got enough for his own passage, and Seol sadly says he has to go. Joo-seol then mutters to himself that the more desperate a person is, the more impulsive they become. And the more impulsive, the less aware they are of their surroundings. He then grabs the 2 coins that were there, surprising the boy. Throwing them to Sung-jin, he tells him to go, leaving the boy confused. Then he says they should go look for that treasure. The two are back in the library. Joo-seol says he'll do what he can but makes no promises. With his 800 coins, he says that resurrection should be listed as a special item, so he should be able to spin the machine twice. Sung-jin can only think about his sister, but as soon as they open the door, they realize someone is already using the machine. It's Yoon Seora, who is using her coins. Worried, Joo-seol asks if she's feeling okay, but the girl just looks at them with tearful eyes. Then Sung-jin offers his coins. The young man observes and realizes she can't even move her body properly. Yoon Seora trembles a lot, barely able to carry the coins. Even closing her hands seems difficult. The girl still looks badly injured. Sung-jin looks at her with deep sadness. But touching his shoulder, Joo-seol reminds him they also have things to do, and that all this is going to take time. The coins are being placed, totaling 299 so far. Then they reach 300 coins. Sung-jin spins the device and anxiously waits to see what drops from the machine. The prize is a fountain pen called the Pen of Fluid Consciousness. But it's not what they need, and Joo-seol says he still has one more chance. Another 300 coins are inserted into the machine. This time, Joo-seol spins the device. A strange box falls to the ground. The two look at each other, confused as it opens. Inside are several magical orbs of different colors. Joo-seol suggests they take a look. The first orb is a light bomb and another freezes whatever it touches. However, none of them are what they need, and the young man expresses his regret. Sung-jin says it's okay, that his sister will understand, but Seol laments that they have to go through this. Someone grabs the sleeve of Joo-seol's shirt and asks if they're looking for the resurrection potion. This surprises both of them. Yoon Seora says to Sung-jin that she heard he saved her life the night before. He mentions her injured arm, but she says it's a useless item for someone who's still alive. Joo-seol just watches, not wanting to take part in the conversation. And poor Sung-jin doesn't know what to do. She just hands him the potion and wishes him luck, walking away while the boy thanks her. Joo-seol also thanks her, and Yoon Seora stops halfway down the hall. The girl says they're even now, and with that, the young man thinks that deep down she's a good person. Meanwhile, Sung-jin stares intently at the potion. The conditions to use it are only on the dead, 1 body part, and the canceling of death by Spectre. They have obtained 2, but they're still missing 1 body part. Then Sung-jin remembers how he can solve that problem. He runs to the science lab, and Joo-seol can't believe they stood around in just one place. As soon as they arrive, they're shocked by what they see. Sung-jin can't believe his sister did that, and Seol says he knows her better than anyone. Joo-seol remembers that they mentioned the dead being hostile and that Seol must have been a special case. The boy seems to understand that. And in that case, Seol asks if it could have been the man's family who did that. And with that, Sung-jin declares that he's never getting married. Changing the subject, Joo-seol asks what they're going to do about his sister. The boy finds it strange that she's not there anymore and suggests looking elsewhere, and Seol says they don't have much time. He then reminds him of the second condition, which is having a body part, and tells the boy to check the time. The dead's time ends at noon, and Joo-seol says his sister will disappear soon. Sang-mei stretches out for a break. Through the window, he sees Joo-seol running. He asks what's going on, and the other young man asks if he happened to see Sung-jin's sister. Stang-ah is searching for coins when the door opens, startling her. It's just Sang-mei saying she's not around, and the woman asks what's not around. He says he's looking for Yi Seola. The three then go looking for her, and Sang-mei and Sang each enter a different room. Only Joo-seol stays there, standing still, and when they leave, he asks if they found anything. The woman believes Yi Seol, isn't on the 4th or 5th floor. She suggests a lower floor or another building since there's no rule that says she can only appear where the treasure is generated, and Sang-mai already asks her to take it easy. Meanwhile, Ju-seol thinks about using his ability, but the problem is that the girl has no malice, so there's a high chance she'll turn green. Desperate, Sang-a asks what to do since only 17 minutes remain. Sang-mai suggests that Seol go to the auditorium since it's the fastest, and the other reminds them that it was the place where she lost her life. He tells Seol to return to the underground parking lot if she's not there, and that he'll start searching in the teacher's room of the main building. Sang-a asks what she should do, and he tells her to go to the 5th floor, talk to Sung-jin, and wait for them on the bridge. Confidently, she says she'll do that. Meanwhile, the young Sung-jin is searching for his sister. Sang-a finally finds him, just as she said she would. Then she asks him if he found her, and he sadly says no, feeling he failed. The lady in red asks how he still hasn't found her even with so much help. The boy turns his face and she asks him to look at her, questioning if he's ignoring her. Sang-a asks her to leave him alone and says they're not even looking for coins, and the lady asks what they're doing then. Sung-jin explains the reason, and rudely, she asks why they're looking for a girl who died in the auditorium. The two then look at each other, and from the boy's expression, all he wants is help to say what needs to be said. Sighing, Sang-a thinks they're already in trouble and that any help is welcome at this point. Then the woman starts while the boy lowers his head. At the end of the explanation, the woman asks if they're looking for the spirit of Yahello. Sang-a confirms and asks her to let them know as soon as she finds her. But suddenly the woman's expression sours. The other two show up and ask what happened, and she denies that anything happened. She only wants to know about coins, and they say they didn't find any. Meanwhile, the girl is curious, wanting to understand why the others are in such a rush. The lady in red says she has no time to waste and no intention of telling anyone if she finds Yahello. Meanwhile, Ju-seol runs to the auditorium calling for the girl. He finds nothing but silence and the bodies lying on the floor from the first day's attack. Something crawls behind the boy. Staying alert, he quickly notices and looks back. The fallen bodies of the dead start rising. One of them shouts that Seol must die. The others who rise repeat the same thing. All of them stand surrounding the boy, ready to attack. Ju-seol tells them not to come closer, claiming he has no business with them. But even so, they ignore his warning. Cursing, the boy grips the iron rod tightly. Without pain or a hint of mercy, he knocks out the first one, then charges at the others. Even while defending himself, there are too many, and they just keep coming, so he looks toward the hole made by the monster. He immediately starts running in that direction. Meanwhile, on the bridge that connects the two buildings, Sang-a is waiting, visibly worried. At the same time, Sung-jin also runs outside the building. Unfortunately, he has no success in his search. In the distance, Sang-mai is also running over. He asks about Seol, and the woman says she hasn't seen him. He reminds her there are less than 5 minutes left, while the young Sung-jin cries for his sister, wondering where she went. From above, Sang-a looks at the boy in disappointment. Then she remembers the person who went to the 6th floor. The boy cries even more, and Sang-mai remembers the 6th floor. Without waiting another second, Sung-jin runs, ignoring the other calling for him. He runs in search of his sister, opening the large door. The boy is greeted by a bright light that nearly blinds him. Yahello is next to the brightly glowing blue portal. Without hesitation, the boy runs to hug her, just in time for the others to arrive. The scene is quite bizarre for them, and Sung-jin asks his sister to wait just a little longer so she can be revived. She doesn't understand, and he explains that he'll do it with the resurrection potion. Despite the emotional scene, Sang-mai remembers something. He yells that they're out of time. Immediately, he and Sang-a shout for Ju-seol. Meanwhile, the boy runs for his life. Even so, the undead horde chases him, but not enough to escape the bomb, which soon explodes, turning them all to dust. Seol's concern is to quickly catch up with Sung-jin. He runs through the open field without knowing where the others went, with only 1 minute left. Ju-seol opens the glass door. His eyes try to spot something, but there's no one there. Just moments before Ju-seol's arrival, the ghost of Yahello tries to convince her brother that he can live even without her. But with tears in his eyes, the boy begs his sister not to leave him. Sang-mai and Sang watch the scene, already hopeless that they can do anything. Back to Seol's arrival, he finally realizes what the problem is. The group is separated, standing on the rooftop of the other building. There are only 10 seconds left, and Sang-mai thinks there's nothing to be done even though the boy has shown up. But Ju-seol knows they've come too far and isn't willing to let it all end like this. He remembers Sung-jin saying he'd accept it if they failed, but Seol won't accept that. The boy then starts stepping back. Everyone watches, and Sang-a asks what he's trying to do. But Ju-seol has no intention of standing there just watching. With only 10 seconds left, he starts running after backing up a good distance. At 9 seconds, he activates the future vision ability. At 8 seconds, he leaps. Everyone watches in awe, even sensing some danger. At 5 seconds, he reaches the other side. With 4 seconds left, he runs toward her. At 3 seconds, he opens the potion. A pink specter emerges from the bottle. With only 2 seconds left, the light strikes the lifeless body of Yahello. She is illuminated by a strong pink light, while everyone watches in shock, also lit by the pink specter's glow. The girl is lifted into the air, and something is happening to the young Yi Seola. Sungjin looks at his sister in concern as a small pink light shines on her chest. Her heart begins to beat once again, and she glows even more with such a bright light that they have to turn away. The specter spreads throughout the area and glows all the way to the sky. Hugh Seal keeps his eye open to see what's happening. Slowly, the girl is returned to the ground, until she falls into Seal's arms. Lai Seal opens her eyes a little confused. She still doesn't understand what's going on, until she realizes who's holding her. Embarrassed, the girl pulls away from him while the others stare in amazement. But she has no time to think when Sungjin hugs his sister tightly, and she asks how she ended up there. Sanga asks if she doesn't remember anything, and confused, the girl only recalls when the monster appeared in the auditorium. Sanga notices that Jibu Seal doesn't look very well. Helping him stay on his feet, the man explains that she died and Seal saved her. Giving him a light elbow, Sanga says she nearly had a heart attack because of him, and exhausted, the boy gives a small smile while apologizing. The treasure hunt is complete. Behind them, a voice congratulates them for completing the missions and assumes everyone is now present. With a round of applause, Han officially announces the completion of Area 1's tutorial. Seal remembers that some people are still missing, but Han says this isn't a race to see who arrives first, though they don't have all day. Suddenly, the rooftop door opens. It's Yoon Seora, extremely tired and still affected by her injuries. She extends a bag of coins, and Han says the toll will be taken at the time of entry. Sanga helps her while Seal thinks about how she had to collect all the coins again and regrets not offering his help. That causes Sungjin to panic, remembering the toll for his sister. But the Good Samaritan Jew Seal tells him not to worry, as he has extra coins. Yai Seal is happy to receive help once again, until the trio shows up and the lady in red asks if they'll be helped too. The woman looks irritated and Seal doesn't seem pleased either. The two boys beg him for help, saying they'll be forever grateful. Sangmai says they're all scumbags and asks Seal if he's really going to give it to them. Even Sanga says he shouldn't give them anything. This angers the lady in red, who tells her to shut up, claiming she's not even talking to her. Approaching Seal, the woman says he doesn't even need to help the other two, and if he does it just for her, she guarantees she'll treat him very well. Leaving everyone shocked, he asks how many coins they need. The two girls need 30 coins each, while the other young boy only needs 25. Jiu Seal shows Yi Seal a bag of coins, saying it's the amount needed for the toll, which makes the girl grateful. That leaves him with 85 coins, and the woman says that's enough to help them. But then Seal makes a strange move and throws the bag of coins to the other side. With that commotion, the coins scatter through the air. This makes the lady in red even angrier. But before she can do anything, Sangmai tells her to hurry since it seems they won't wait for much longer. The woman glares at Jivu Seal with irritation. Then the three of them rush to try to gather the coins in time. Laughing, Sanga says what he did was amazing, but then she notices something in his hands. Seal says he only threw 80, and what's left is a kind of fee for when someone puts them in danger and someone else has to make a sacrifice. Han smiles at that and sees it as one more step toward becoming a true Earthling. Then he calls everyone's attention, ready to begin the point distribution. Meanwhile, the trio runs trying to collect the coins. The two girls argue, each trying to get in front of the other. The boy tells them to stop, saying there's an exact amount for the three of them. Annoyed, the girl asks where he gets that confidence from, thinking they'll actually find all the coins. The lady in red thinks about how stupid the girl is for speaking up without even being sure that Seal threw all 85. Han begins announcing their achievements. The young Yu Seora has 317 points. Next is Hyun Sangmai with 302 points. The young Yi Sung Jin has 114 points. Shin Sang with her 116 points. Vai Seal with 46 points, taking into account her performance in the auditorium. And then he says he thought he was going to die calculating the points, and that nothing like this has ever happened before, revealing Jihu Seal's 350 points. Everyone around him celebrates happily at the boy's victory, though he seems a little overwhelmed. But Haven speaks again and says that was just the score for the first phase in the auditorium. He sighs, bracing himself for what comes next. For everything the boy did since the first mission, the trap in the second phase, rescuing his friends, and many other things. His final surprising score is 2,150. Everyone is left speechless by the revelation. However, Han says it's still not over. With the addition of the 10x multiplier, the total survival points are 21,500, the highest in history. None of them can say anything. It's Sangmai who asks if he's happy, and Seal realizes that helping others earns points, understanding why Han helped him when the attention alert appeared. Then Sangna asks where they'll use these points. The only thing Han replies is that they'll find out once they get there. The man then tells Ju Seal that he must be very happy, and says he might even get to use the VIP shop. Han just gives a heads up that such a shop exists and reminds him not to forget about the paper he picked. Back to the trio, while the others search, the lady in red believes it's going to lead nowhere, but considers the possibility that they might find them first. The girl yells that she found them all. She jumps around joyfully while singing about her victory, and the defeated boy just stares. The boy asks for help, saying it'll be faster if they help each other since they made it that far together. Meanwhile, the lady in red just watches, thinking about what she'll do. Her eyes are fixed on an iron pipe lying on the ground. The boy keeps begging for help, saying they can all get out of there alive if they just push a little more. But she says it's not her fault if they didn't manage to find their share. She's about to leave the place and doesn't even have time to wish them good luck. When the blow lands, the girl falls to the ground, stained with her own fluid. Annoyed, the woman asks if she thinks she's some kind of goddess to be wishing others good luck. Rummaging through the girl's pocket, the woman says this is the fastest and safest way, and that they were idiots to fall for the other's sweet talk. She then asks the boy if he's coming or if he doesn't like that the coins are stained with someone's blood. The boy swallows hard, but in the end he accepts, and all the woman needs is one person by her side, since the others wouldn't accept her. Han asks them to enter after paying the toll, handing the responsibility to the assistant beside him. A loud bang is heard behind them. The group turns around, surprised. It's the lady in red and the regretful boy. She throws the stained pipe on the ground and walks past Jihu Seal. Sang Mei wastes no time cracking a joke about how terrifying she is. She says she has the toll money, but Han gives her a strange look. Annoyed, she asks if there's something wrong. Smiling, he says no, and that they'll accept it after all. The portal hasn't closed yet. She then pays the fee and heads for the portal. However, Han says her total survival points are 35, making Minyoung, the infamous lady in red, freeze. She turns and asks what those survival points are, and the man reveals that she received them due to her earlier aggressive behavior. Even trembling from his words, she steps through the portal. Then it's the boy's turn, and Han says he's sure there's no need to explain. He passes through the portal. Sang Mai is next to enter. Then the others follow, with Jihu Seal having to be pushed into the portal by the assistant when it's his turn. Han bows as he watches the survivors enter. He wishes them good luck in the neutral zone. Everyone is amazed by the beauty of the Great Hall. Sang-At is shocked by the number of foreigners, and Sang-Mai tells her not to embarrass them. They are directed to their seats. As Jihu Seal sits, he notices something that catches his attention. Across from him is a girl who seems to notice him too. She waves at him with a small smile, and that makes the young man quite embarrassed. Suddenly, something strange happens to Jihu Seal as his synchronization process begins. The system synchronization is successful, and meanwhile, mission data is given. Area 9 Oceania failed, Area 8 South Africa failed, Area 7 China failed, Area 6 Africa failed, Area 5 Asia passed, Area 4 North America passed, Area 3 Germany passed, Area 2 Europe also passed. And it's announced that Area 1 South Korea passed, and Seal is surprised that the girl can speak. There's a question whether everyone can understand each other now because of the synchronization. Then someone steps onto the stage and walks while congratulating everyone for completing the tutorial and welcoming them. Only one stage light turns on. It illuminates the woman who welcomes them to the infernal neutral zone. Everyone sits quietly listening. She speaks of the sacred land blessed by the 7 gods, and paradise is a place where they can prove their worth. But to go there, they must accumulate 1,000 survival points. To do that, they have 1 month, which angers a man who had been promised they would be sent as soon as they completed the tutorial. With a serious glare, she tells him to sit or she'll deal with him and with the people who brought him. So he was silent after the threat. Additionally, she says the man made a huge mistake because the name of the place they are in is Lost Paradise, a war zone. She says she didn't expect them to grow arrogant just because they survived a few ridiculous monsters. The woman asks if they think the real challenges would be anything like the tutorial. Taking advantage of the moment, she says some rewards will be given out and that they should stand when their names are called. The first is Thong Che from Area 5. She says he's already qualified and that she can send him to paradise if he wants, but he decides to stay. She then tosses something to him. The man catches a golden key. The golden key has the number 6 on it. Next, she calls Salvatore Lorda from Area 2. The young man also decides to stay and receives a key as well. Then she calls Area 7's Ha Win. She also asks if he wants to stay. Smiling, he says that's a silly question. Of course he will. The man receives the golden key with the number 3. Next is Delphine from Area 2, who also chooses to stay, which doesn't surprise the woman, so she throws a key to the girl. The girl catches the key and then asks for a moment. She says she thinks the number on the key is wrong. The woman says it's not a mistake, and even though the girl collected 7,500 points, that wasn't the top score. So the girl thinks if second place has 7,500 points, that means someone score even higher. Finally, she calls Seal from Area 1, who quickly responds that he's staying. Everyone becomes curious about the boy who ranked first and wants to know what his score is. Ju's decision to stay was based on what all the participants had agreed, which to him meant that something was still missing. His key is handed over. A woman is watching everything, and with the final delivery, she snaps her fingers. Then the double doors open with a strong light shining from inside. Shouting, she says the countdown has already started. The other scene is quite impressive, leaving everyone speechless. The survivors from Area 1 are also very impressed with everything. The place is quite luxurious and cozy. However, Ju Seal doesn't remember any details from the dreams he had about this place. The only thing he remembers is that he dreamt about it. As they approach the others, Sangmei asks why everyone is gathered together. Excited, Sanga suggests they take a look until suddenly she realizes Yoon Seora is missing. But no one knows where she is, and Sung Jin says he hasn't seen her since they were transported. Sangmei also mentions she hasn't seen the trio, and the woman suggests they stay together and search for Seora later. Ju says he'll go rest. The group says their goodbyes, confirming they'll meet up again later. After parting ways, Seal takes a different path. He is stopped by someone greeting him. Confused, Yu Seal asks if they're talking to him. The woman introduces herself as the instructor of Area 2. And to his surprise, she says she was hoping to have the honor of guiding him through the place. That makes the boy a little nervous, unsure of what to say. Someone taps the Area 2 instructor on the shoulder. With a different expression, she looks back, and to Ju Seal's relief, it's the girl who's been with him. The woman says the tutorial is over and asks if she could let her guide the boy. But without saying a word, the girl simply flips her off, which disappoints the woman, who says she's still as vulgar as ever. To further irritate her, the girl flashes both middle fingers with an even bigger smile. And that seemed to work perfectly. Out of patience, the woman says they'll meet again some other time. As she turns her back, the girl mutters that her habit of wanting to touch everything first hasn't changed. Smiling, she says she'll show him around, and the only thing the boy replies is that she seems pretty persuasive. She says she stayed quiet to practice silence and thought it would be a good idea to think before speaking. The girl then suggests that Seal treat them to a drink, and when he says he has no money, she reminds him of the 21,500 points plus the 5,000 point bonus. Seal remembers receiving that bonus back at the auditorium. Finally, he understands that survival points are used instead of money. The girl explains that survival points are the currency in the neutral zone. Everything is paid for with those points. This makes him think that besides collecting them, they can be consumed, making things even harder. The two go up the large spiral staircase. The girl seems very pleased with her drink, and Seal, following behind, is curious. He asks if the drink is good. The girl says yes, and that he should have grabbed one since it would have been free, and he asked about her, saying that regular shops and restaurants offer a 100% discount. She explains that the gold mark gets a 30% discount and the first place gets 70%, totaling 100%, and Seal realizes it'll be tough for the others. Curious, Ju Seal asks how one earns survival points. She explains that the most basic way is through missions posted on the bulletin board, so he asks if there are other methods, which are loans and transfers, and he realizes that loan sharking and stealing are probably common there. The instructor says it was a good idea to stay since going back to the neutral zone is hard and you lose the benefits offered. To clear up Seal's doubts, she smiles and says one of the benefits is the VIP store. Curious, he asks if they sell luxury items and brands at lower prices or something like that. In the most vulgar way, she asks what he's talking about and what he even do with a purse in the war zone. She says the goal in the neutral zone is to buy at the VIP store, since there's nothing like it anywhere else. Cheerfully, she shows the top floor, the royal tier used by players who scored over 1,000 points in the tutorial. But Ju Seal is too tired to pay attention and complains about how a place like this doesn't have an elevator. Panting, he asks if she expects him to go up and down all those stairs, and says there's no way this is the floor meant for royalty. Unbothered, she says it shouldn't be a big deal for people who have the right to be on that floor. After all, it's not a resort. Then she tells him to stop complaining. Still cheerful, she says she'll take him to check out the place she's pointing at. Seal's shocked expression is very clear. She says the room will give him an effective recovery, and just 4 hours of sleep will completely heal his body. The place includes an area for rest and entertainment, a large luxurious bathroom with a nice bathtub, a very cozy bedroom with a fireplace to warm the space. Impressed, he asks how a place like that can even exist. She explains that the neutral zone is blessed by the 7 gods, so no effort is spared in helping the representatives, and Seal realizes he thought there would only be tests. The young man grows thoughtful when she says the main goal is to increase their chances of survival. The representative then hands him an item and tells him he should see it for himself to believe. It's about the VIP store of the Lost Eden. Saying goodbye, she tells him that the blessing of lust be with him. Still confused, he simply waves back, while she marches toward the exit, annoyed at how far it is. The young man then remembers that he doesn't even know her name. Near the door, the girl asks if he said something, so she can hear Seal shouts asking her name. Then she asks if he already forgot and says her name is Maria Uriel. A bit intimidated, he says goodbye, but the boy realizes it's the first time he's heard that name. He soon throws himself onto the large circular bed. Very tired, it had been a long day for him. His sleepy eyes slowly begin to close. He sees only a faint blur. The image then gradually starts to take shape. As it becomes clear, he wonders if he fell asleep and how many hours passed. Looking at his phone, it's 11:12 p.m. Yawning, he thinks it was a good nap. Looking at the bed, he remembers what Maria Uriel gave him. Curious, he opens it and wonders what kind of products they sell to be so highly valued. His eyes widen at what he sees on the list. The cheapest item costs 30,000 points. He lets the information sheet fall on the bed, thinking it's all madness. Seol leaves his room number 1. Curious, he wonders if the rest of the group went to their rooms too and whether the shops are closed. There's a small group gathered around the information board. He approaches to take a look. The people around him, upon noticing him, don't hide their stares. They don't seem happy with the young man's presence. Hao-Wen eyes him suspiciously, while Delphine seems intrigued. To Seol, all of this feels like pressure. But either way, his interest lies in the mission. He must choose one and tear the paper to be transported to the area. And in cooperative missions, they need to go with people from other zones. He wonders if missions have a limited number of retries. One mission is to explore a normal level maze with a 2-hour limit. The reward is 100 points. So he picks this mission even though failure means reset or elimination. Delphine calls out to him and the boy turns. With a small smile, she invites him for tea. Suddenly, a bright light shines on the boy. Then the torn mission paper falls to the ground. This annoys the girl as she feels completely rejected. Crying, she says that's not what happened. Meanwhile, Seol finds himself in another place. The first thing he sees are strange structures lit by torches. He looks around carefully, then closes his eyes, activating the 9 Eyes ability. Each one glows a different color. Only one is green, 3 are orange, and 1 is red. His choice is the green one. Meanwhile, back in the neutral zone, suddenly, Seol returns. Everyone is surprised by the speed since only 20 minutes have passed. He wonders if he should try another one, perhaps one with a better reward. The young man then spots one with impossible difficulty but a very high reward of 172,800 points. But something catches his attention. To investigate, he activates the 9 Eyes. One paper stands out on the red ones. It's a mission worth 1,000 points and can have up to 6 participants. The yellow signal tells him to proceed with caution. The mission still has 15 attempts left since no one has tried it yet, and he remembers Kang Suk also lit up yellow. Anyway, life is full of risks and he takes the mission. Delphine calls out to him once more and asks if he remembers Thong Chai. Seol asks if he's the man who placed 5th. Whispering, she says that apparently he was eliminated while attempting the mission to find the exit of the labyrinth. That leaves the boy very surprised. Then he notices Hao-Wen's presence. Seol acknowledges they warn about the possibility of death, but asks why she thinks that was the case. She says she's not sure, but it's already been 2 hours and he still hasn't returned. However, Ju says the mission didn't seem complicated at all. The girl repeats his words, "Not complicated at all," with a sad expression. Once again, she invites him for tea. Her eyes light up when he says yes. But once again, he tears up the mission paper and says they should leave that for another time. Rejected once again, a few people even laugh the cruelty. Hao-Wen grabs Seol's mission paper and is shocked when he sees what mission he went on alone. Curious, Delphine takes a look too and thinks he's crazy for doing that. With that, Hao-Wen declares that they've lost the 5th and 1st place participants all on the first day. The girl gets sad about it. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Seol is on another mission. Everything is dark and he can't see a thing. The solution is to use his phone's flashlight. To improve his vision, he activates the 9 Eyes ability. He then sees some very strange figures. Using the flashlight, he lights up the dark area, revealing cadaverous and hideous figures. There are many of them, and in the middle is something even bigger. This scares the boy quite a bit. One of the skeletons raises its weapon and declares the attack. Seol takes a few steps back, but there's no way out anymore. The skeletons begin to approach. Quickly, the young man rummages through his bag looking for any leftover magic spheres. The lead skeleton then shouts for the attack, and Seol hurries even more scared. He uses the flashlight to shine it on the creatures. One of the skeletons coming his way. With a jump, he narrowly dodges. As he lights up part of the place, Seol notices something, and to test it, he shines the light directly on the monsters. But he needs to dodge another blow. Quickly, he searches for something in his bag. He pulls out a sphere and throws it at them. The explosion hits them all, but it doesn't have much effect, and Seol believes it's because he didn't combine it properly. The creatures are ready to attack again. Thinking fast, Seol throws another one. The magic sphere contains spider webs to trap the creatures. Then the next one he throws contains hydrochloric acid, which melts the monsters. Seol is cornered and more monsters are coming. He throws another sphere and thinks this is not the time to be stingy about using them. The magic sphere hits them. Bones scatter in all directions, but the battle is not over yet. This really makes the young man feel afraid. A skeleton drags its massive axe. The monster is even larger and is about to attack him. He thinks it's already too late. The blow comes with a strong flash of light. Seol's bag was hit and his items spilled out. All he can think is that it was just a mission that only required some attention, and that maybe he'll die in a dumb way. The massive skeleton is already preparing for the next strike. Meanwhile, in the neutral zone, everyone assumes he was eliminated, and Hao-Wen thinks it was a complete waste of time, until a light appears behind him. To everyone's surprise, Seol is back. That shocks the man, making him suspect the boy must be cheating or something like that. But then he notices something. Seol is completely exhausted and seems frightened. In his room, he's collapsed near the door. The terror is already visible on his face. He can still remember what happened during the mission after the monster hit his bag, the mirror that fell out with the other items. And when it hit the ground, reflecting a strong light, which struck the large monster, and slowly began to turn it to dust as it screamed. It was the item he got from the library machine. At that moment, he picked the mirror up off the ground and aimed it at the creature. This made the light even stronger, destroying the monster. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed something. More of the small creatures were still there, so only a few remained. One by one, they were eliminated, driving Seal to exhaustion, and little by little, the mirror began to crack. He successfully completed a difficult mission and received 1,000 survival points. Despite that, Seal was affected, wondering if he had been too careless and questioning his worth as number one. In the end, life is made of risks. Unable to hold back his tears, the boy calls himself a complete idiot and loser, asking how he could have been so arrogant. Someone knocks on the door and he quickly wipes his tears. He opens the door and is surprised to see who it is. With a gentle smile, Seal is standing at his door. He gets embarrassed when she calls him in a more respectful way, Orabioni. Sitting on the wooden bench, Seal finishes telling her what happened, saying it was a miracle he made it back alive. Then, smiling, the girl asks if he wants to go for a run. This leaves him confused. The girl gets excited and says that running will help him forget his worries and make him feel better, though he finds it strange to do that with everyone else asleep. However, she says there's a place. It's a cooperative running mode to do 10 laps on the track, and the attempts are unlimited. She asks if he found it too easy, but the boy doesn't understand the purpose of doing something like that without any reward. But Seal says running helps her sleep, and with all the effort she went through to bring him there, Seal considers accepting and asks how the cooperative mode works. She explains that they'll be registered as a team as long as they're in physical contact when one of them tears the paper. Then Seal touches her shoulder, making her embarrassed, and asks if that's how it works. He asks if they can begin, and a bit awkwardly, she agrees. The girl then tears the paper, and the two are transported. Seal is amazed such a place exists. The two start stretching, and it doesn't seem like a bad idea. However, the young man just throws a few punches in the air, and Seal thinks he needs to stretch his legs. Seal is already exhausted, feeling like he might vomit any moment. He's just thinking about how much is left. Seal is cheerful, saying there are only 2 laps left and asking him not to forget the breathing pattern. But he's already at his limit. Collapsed on the ground, Seal says he lacks stamina, and Ju asks how she can run so well. Smiling, she replies that she comes from a family of athletes, and he thinks that sounds like too much pressure. Now he's lying defeated on the ground. But thinking about it, it's been years since he exercised. He dove deep into drinking, smoking, and gambling. Either way, he relaxes and realizes that running isn't so bad. Happy with that, Seal says running is the best thing to boost stamina. Then he simply thanks her, leaving the girl confused. He says he can think more clearly now, and it's all thanks to her. Shy, she says she didn't do anything special, but she's glad to have helped, and actually, she's the one who's grateful for him saving her. Seal suggests another round, and she accepts that suggestion from her Orabioni. Calmly, he holds the girl's hand, but she remembers that he still hasn't finished the last lap. Meanwhile, back in the shared dormitory, Seal enters one of the rooms. She drops her bag on one of the beds and sits down. The others are pretending to be asleep while keeping an eye on her. Her injured arm still hurts, and she tries to hold back her tears. The girl believes she can't ask for help anymore, since she's already been too much trouble for them. She wants to prove her worth, and she needs to stay alive through her own strength. Meanwhile, Sanga wants to know where Seal is, and Sangmai says to just leave her since she's avoiding them anyway, and helping her won't earn them any points. The woman asks how he can be so calculating and whether he doesn't think it's natural to help others, that one day he might be the one in need. Then he sighs and says she still thinks he's the only one who's calculating. That annoys her, and she asks what he meant by that. To defend her, Sungjin reminds them that thanks to the girl, his sister came back to life, and Seal agrees, saying she wants to return the favor. Then Sanga remembers Seal and asks where he is. The young man eats his meal alone and in silence. However, his mind is loud, thinking about doing more missions. Something like the maze level is acceptable, but the reward is too low, and it would be a waste of time for him. He remembers it was said that the goal of the place is to increase survival chances. The young man wants to stay focused on his development and improve his stamina. His bag is stitched up and he believes the work done is great, but suddenly he thinks of something, and it makes sense in his mind. He rummages through his bag, remembering that Han told him not to forget the paper he picked up, the guide's ticket. On the paper is the guide's note with tips for the neutral zone and mentioning the item competence, which can enhance strength. Seal gets curious about the item and notices once again they mention the VIP store. With that, he decides to go there and find out why everyone talks so much about the place. The clerk is asleep on the counter. Drowsy and drooling, he greets him with a welcome to the VIP store. The man is way too tired but still takes time to evaluate the person in front of him. He says that's not what he meant and adds that only people with at least 30,000 survival points are allowed in. Shocked by the treatment, Seal asks if he can at least take a look. But by the man's expression, not even that is allowed. Seal says he just wants to know what competence is, and that sparks the clerk's interest. Surprised, the man asks if he really said competence. To clear up the doubt, Seal even reads the paper out loud, and the man realizes it's from the guide, which changes everything, and asks him to hand over the ticket. The man walks over to the cabinet behind the counter. He then opens the door. There are several tubes inside, and the man says he'll also find competence in the lower shops. He grabs one of the vials and says the ones from the other stores don't compare to those sold at the VIP shop due to cost effectiveness and their effects. That makes Seal curious, so he asks what the difference is between them. He says it will increase training effect by 4 times for 12 hours, and the VIP ones have double the effect, as if training for 8 days. That surprises the boy quite a bit, as they're sharing a secret. The man says it costs 400 points, and since the regular one costs 250, this is a deal you can't miss, and mentions it's a super rare item. And Seal can only think about the effect that equals 8 days of training. The man believes the boy is in the palm of his hand and with a slight grin asks if he's going to buy it. Showing his key and golden pouch, Seal asks if the discounts also apply there. The man says he must be the guy from the rumors and unfortunately the discount bonuses don't work in the VIP shop. Even so, Seal is determined to buy not just one but the entire stock. He uses one of the competence vials, and his stamina seems greatly improved while running. Meanwhile, 2 survivors are fighting and one of the men says he almost died because of the boy. Minyoung just watches the fight along with the others who want to understand what happened. Little Delphine is also curious to know what happened to them. Loretta explains that he's had problems with teamwork and that they were chosen based on scores, so they ended up struggling. The man says Thong Che went through something like that firsthand. But Guther clarifies that his case is different since he took the challenge out of sheer curiosity. And Delphine says everyone thought he'd been eliminated because he took so long. Thong Che apologizes and says he's the type of man who likes to wander. Someone shouts, drawing the trio's attention. It's the boy complaining about how he's supposed to get 1,000 points since even socks cost that much. And the other one laments that at this rate, he'll have to stop eating and sleeping. Minyoung notices someone approaching. It's Maria Uriel with her drink. The woman then calls out to her. The lady in red asks if the deadline ends in 2 weeks and wants to know if they plan to disqualify everyone like that, causing a revolt. The boy says they should allow using Earth money, and everyone agrees. But not caring, the girl says they're just a bunch of broke losers who can't even buy a coffee from a vending machine. That angers the people, who ask who she thinks she is to say whatever she wants. Fed up, the girl says if they have problems, they should complain to the person in charge. However, just remembering that woman gives everyone chills and a slight shiver down their spine. Finally, Maria says they should use the time they're wasting arguing with an arrogant girl like her on a mission instead. Ha-Win is sitting with the others, while Maria Uriel walks around calmly with her drink. In one of the facilities, there's concern about whether Seal is doing well, since he's even dumber than they expected. They also think the boy is insane, and that he spent half a month training his physical condition. They never imagined someone like him would show up. The woman in charge says the deities must be quite pleased. Then the representative from Area 2 asks if it's time to reveal the truth. She then asks if she's referring to the deadline. The blonde woman says the neutral zone is in chaos and she can't imagine the survivor's reaction upon learning the real time limit. However, the chief says she's worrying about nonsense and that they only need to say they felt pity, so they extended the deadline. Then she asks what she thinks would have happened if she had said the deadline was 3 months. In her view, they would have slacked off, needing to accumulate only 30 points a day, and that wouldn't have been a pleasant sight. She says even the most useless one would be able to finish the normal difficulty within the time limit. And if growth continues steadily, the talented ones will complete the harder missions. For her, with the minimum deadline, they're really taking the mission seriously. However, they'll soon reach their limit. The chief remembers when she used to complete missions like a lunatic, and reveals that if she had trained as hard as him when she arrived, she'd be twice as powerful. With that, the representative says she agrees. The chief then tells her to go ahead and help him if she wants, and the woman tries to argue. But the leader says she knows he was recommended by Miss Foxy. However, she's heard something quite interesting. Seal keeps running and has even lost count of how many laps he's done. But that doesn't matter, as he intends to keep running until he can't anymore. He wonders if he should stop for a bit, but he thinks he can get back to running if he walks slowly to catch his breath. In the end, there's no reason to waste time thinking about it, since no one's there to judge him, and he still wonders if coming to this place was a good idea. The boy is exhausted and thinks that if he's having thoughts like this, it's because running is starting to get hard. He thinks he's pathetic, and because of that, Samwo broke up with him and his family turned their backs, so the boy screams. That distraction makes him misstep. He loses his balance and crashes to the ground. The boy falls defeated, but he forces himself to get up because he needs to keep going. A sharp pain hits his stomach like a hard punch, and as a result, he ends up vomiting. Seal is sweating a lot. He's very tired from all the effort. Still, he successfully completes a basic mission, earning 10 survival points. The personality trait No Determination has been erased and his stamina level increased from low to low intermediate. Light hits Seal and he is transported. He's back at the neutral zone headquarters. The young man notices someone standing in front of him. The person is holding a drink, and then offers it to him. The woman is the instructor he met on the first day. Being exactly what he needed, he accepts the cup and thanks her. Without wasting any time, Ju Seol drinks desperately. However, the woman says it costs 10 points. She says she never thought she'd say something like this as an instructor, but tells him to reduce the length of his training time, and he asks why he would do that. To his surprise, she says that from what she's observed, his training routine has exceeded the limit his body can handle. She advises him to rest, and that the more his body recovers stamina naturally, the faster the recovery rate will be. The woman also says he should eat regularly at the place she's recommending, eating more nutritious food to recover. Besides thinking the place must be very expensive, he believes that might interfere with his training time. But she says eating is also a form of training, and with a short time limit, the ideal is to increase efficiency. Another piece of advice she gives is to try other training methods, and with that, she will help him. Ju Seol grows curious about why she's doing this and wonders if it's because of the golden seal. The woman then remembers the conversation she had with the chief. She says it's possible that he has no ties to Sinyeon, but the blonde reminds her that it was Hannah Kim who recommended him. The chief confirms that Miss Foxy is part of the place, but the important thing is that the golden seal wasn't sent by them, despite her possessing it. She then says that for Agnes to help him, she'll have to give it her all, because he is an irregular with a golden seal, just like Sung Shian 2 years ago. That scares the woman upon learning that an executor trained the man. Agnes says she won't take the blame if Seal ends up becoming a powerful enemy that might cross their paths in the future. Back in the present, she explains that he has potential and, as an instructor, she wants to guide him in the right direction, and he asks if that's okay. The young man says that if it's possible, he would like someone highly skilled to go hard on his training, and that he heard rumors about someone like that. Agnes says that in that case, there's no need to introduce him to anyone else, and she introduces herself as Claire Agnes, also known as the demonic instructor. Everyone in the academy is horrified. Already beginning the training, she doesn't go easy on him. Ju Seol is extremely tired and stops for a bit. However, he gets hit as she asks who gave him permission to rest. The woman demands he start again from the beginning. The weights are thrown to the ground. Out of breath, the boy is almost out of strength, and Agnes asks what he's doing, and he begs for a break since she said resting is important. But the woman repeats that rest comes after training, not in the middle of it. The boy is really screwed with her. Besides that, she says she can be even more gentle, though she thinks she's still going easy on him, and she threatens to assign someone else, prompting the boy to immediately say he'll do what she says. Agnes then tells him to stop whining and get up already. She gets him even more, and now the boy understands why she's called the demonic instructor. Ju Seol goes back to intense training. However, during the exercise, his leg shakes a lot. The woman yells that she already told him to pay attention to his knees. From the infirmary doorway, you can already hear the doctor saying the situation is getting worse and proper treatment is needed. The woman wraps Yoon Seora's arm and says a basic treatment will hold things for now, but it better one starts at 2,000 points. But the girl doesn't have that many points, and the woman suggests she borrow from the boy with the gold mark. The girl becomes even more shy, and the doctor says this isn't the time to feel embarrassed. Yoon Seora bows, thanking her for what was done. The doctor asks her not to forget to use the reagent to stop the infection and to beg for survival points. Suddenly, Maria appears and sarcastically comments on the lovely advice she gave. She says priests are supposed to take care of each other before awakening, but Maria is just talking about the arm, and Maria actually seems to agree with it. Yoon Seora looks at the price of the reagent. She only has 23 points, but could end up dying if she doesn't use it. Sadly, she thinks that if that happens, she bets her father would be disappointed. The girl remembers what the woman said about this not being the time for shame. She crumples the paper, nervous just thinking about it. Someone spots her and calls out. It's Seol, who greets her cheerfully. They talk about what they did during the time they were apart, and Yoon Seora lies, saying her arm is fine. Seol asks if she's eaten, and as thanks for saving her life, says she'll pay for her. Yoon Seora, very shy, asks about the girl's brother. She replies that he went on a mission with Sangmei, and the other girl can only think about how sweet she is even though all she did was hand her the potion. Someone very irritated walks past and bumps into Yoon Seora's injured arm. The girl falls to the ground in great pain. Yahello turns around angrily to see who it was, and tells the man he should apologize when he bumps into someone. But the man turns around and cursing asks her to repeat what she said. The girl simply asks that he apologize, saying the other girl's arm is injured. Even more threatening, the man asks if she's saying the shoulder dislocation was his fault, but Seol only explains what happened. Very arrogantly, the man tells her to put on a cast or a sign saying her arm is injured, and many people gather to see what's going on. Meanwhile, Yoon Seora becomes frightened by the comments people make about her. She even asks what the chances are of her going to paradise, and they say she should just get lost. Another even calls her a burden, making the girl even sadder. And Seol becomes worried because that's not how she imagined things would go. Not wanting to hear anything else, Yoon Seora asks to leave. The man spits on the ground in disgust. While the lady in red looks on disapprovingly at the scene, but Yahello thinks she was really stupid for causing something like that. Yoon Seora just keeps walking without waiting for the other, and says she just remembered she has something to do. But before she disappears from sight, someone calls out to them. It's Sanga. wearing her new and stylish outfit. The woman slams her hand on the table in frustration upon hearing the whole story. She says she should have been there at that time, but Yoon Seo-rae asks her not to worry, and Seo-ah says it was her fault. Sang-ah says the guy is insane and curious about the girl's medicine. She asks to take a look. The girl agrees and tries to take the paper from her pocket. That's when the woman notices she still can't use her right arm. When the girl finally gets it, she hands it over. Sang-ah remembers hearing that antibiotics are quite expensive. The woman returns it and asks her about her points, saying what she's going through is due to spending more than she earns. The girls feel embarrassed to talk about it. Then Sang-ah suggests they ask Seol, but Yoon Seo-rae says she has to find a solution on her own. However, the woman reminds her it's not easy to gather 1,000 points alone, and that she has less than 10 days left and should treat her arm. But Yoon Seo-rae says she thinks they don't actually have just 1 month. That leaves the other two confused about what she means. Meanwhile, in the Neutral Zone's training hall, Hugh Seol continues with his training ritual. He pushes himself to the limit while the countdown continues. When it reaches number 1, Agnes tells him to stop. However, he keeps going even after she tells him to stop. Seol says he just wants a little more time like that. He wants to test himself beyond his limit, which doesn't last very long, and he collapses exhausted on the mat. Agnes says she admires his willpower, but overdoing it will harm his body, and besides, it would be terrible if he ended up injured. But for her, it's great that Seol is following the routine without complaining. Her concern was that he might grow impatient or greedy with the missions. Hugh Seol wants to ask her something, and the woman encourages him to do so. The young man wants to know what people do in paradise, and that seems to catch her off guard. Agnes says that for someone with a gold seal, he asked a question only a contracted one would ask and wonders if the person who used the seal didn't explain it. He thinks Hannah Kim kind of explained it, but either way, he doesn't have many memories of the dream. To explain, Agnes says it's like a fantasy medieval game, except in real life. And Seol asks if it's like slaying monsters and selling loot. But she says the only difference is that you're actually risking your life, though she keeps quiet about the war. Then Ju Seol stands up more determined and asks if he shouldn't be learning some techniques. To his next question, Agnes says it's not time yet. He says there are only 9 days left, so they should do some missions, but she asks him to trust her, if he still wants her to be his trainer, or he can leave and do whatever he wants. Ju Seol tries to say that at this pace, when he gets there, he'll be nothing more than dead weight. And Agnes doesn't understand why he's so concerned, since his class hasn't even been decided yet. Then she asks what he'll do if he sticks to physical training until the end. He thinks about what he'd do in that situation. The young man says that even with the short time, he knows she's being honest with him. And the woman just wonders how he can say something like that without feeling embarrassed. But he seems a bit unsure because of her strange reaction. Either way, she shouldn't say something, but she'll tell him if he promises to keep it a secret. Back with the girls, Yoon Seo-rae reveals the truth about the 3 months, and that they haven't yet done the most important thing. Then she reveals it's the awakening. Agnes also explains this to Ji-Hoo Seol, that he will be granted 1 of 4 classes in the awakening chamber, and then will receive training. The boy doesn't understand this, and says the time is too short to do everything. And she says they will get more time. Hearing that gets everyone excited. While Seol celebrates, someone is secretly watching the girl. The boy thinks he just heard a bombshell of a revelation. He runs back to one of the dorms and shouts that he heard good news. But Min-young is not alone. Annoyed, she says next time he should knock and not be so rude. The man asks him to close the door because the room is starting to get cold. The boy asks what he's doing there, and the woman asks if he thought they were just dating because they ate and slept together, telling him not to be naive. Her words leave him shocked. The move is one of the witnesses to what's happening. The man doesn't hold back as he punches the other guy, and the boy falls to the ground. Min-young asks if he's ready to cooperate now. The boy says he also didn't manage to collect all his points. She simply gives a signal that the other one quickly understands. Then he punches again, hitting the boy's ribs hard. He falls to the ground, drooling from the pain. Min-young steps on his head, and asking if he wants it to continue. She threatens that they can keep going all night. But he gives in, begging them to stop, saying he'll hand it over to them. And she says it was so simple he didn't even need a second beating. They only get 70 points, which angers Min-young, who says they still need 500 more. The man asks what they'll do now since there's no one left to squeeze money from. The whole situation makes the woman stressed. On the morning of the 30th day, the instructors are gathered and Cynthia makes an announcement to all the survivors in the plaza. And obviously, it doesn't please everyone, and the man gets irritated, asking what they're talking about. Cynthia asks if he's deaf. After all, she said that everyone who failed to accumulate 1,000 points has failed. Even annoyed, she says she'll announce the people who passed. The ones announced are Ji-Hoo Seol, Delphine, and Lurida. And finally, Hyun from Area 1. Only a few made it. A bit upset, Sang-ah calls him stingy, but the man defends himself, saying it's every man for himself. But Ha-Win from Area 7 says that's not what he heard. Cynthia says she doesn't know what he heard, but he shouldn't forget she's the one in charge there. He and his partners don't seem satisfied. Then Yoon Seo-rae from Area 1 asks about the awakening. Sarcastically, the woman asks if she thought the 7 deities would bless someone who couldn't even gather a measly 1,000 points. But that revelation only causes confusion, and everyone wants to know about the awakening and the gods. Ha-Win then asks what would happen if he managed to get 1,000 points right now. This piques Sinzi's curiosity, and she asks how he would do that. He then demands that his underlings send all their points, and they do so without complaining. And that's when everyone realizes they can do that too and start begging one another to lend points. But this attitude irritates Cinzia, who tells them to stop. She says they're trash, not even good enough to be human shields, and not worthy of asking about the awakening. To her, they're all worthless, just as they were back on Earth. That's enough to make them all go silent. Cinzia then says she'll give one last chance, giving them 2 months to prove to her they can become recyclable trash, and everyone gets excited, thinking they're saved. But she tells them to celebrate only after meeting the 7 deities, because the experience might be discouraging for some of them. People line up for the 8th floor in the Awakening Chamber corridor. At the moment, Ju Seol is next in line. Something catches his attention. It's Delphine, who just came out of the machine and has collapsed on the floor. He asks if she's okay. Despite her exhaustion, with a smile, she reveals that she's a mage. That catches his attention because of something he heard. When Agnes explained the 4 primordial classes in Paradise: warrior, archer, priest, and mage. Warrior is the most common, followed by archer, and the priest class is rare enough to be considered valuable. In his memory, he asked about the mage. She says that with the number of participants in this stage, it's possible none will appear, since it's the rarest class, and that the classes are determined by the deities. Either way, it's his turn. Ju Seol looks around curiously. He enters a very different room with the symbol of an eye on the door. Everything is completely white in all directions, until he's caught off guard by a strange anomaly. It's so strong that it lifts him off the ground, as if the direction of the wind had reversed. Ju Seol is in a place where space and time are different, and a strange voice announces that the awakening will now begin. A ball of energy moves toward his stomach. The voices of the deities converse, surprised by the amount of mana he has, as well as his innate ability. They talk about how he once lost the ability and that it drained his mana, but there was nothing to be done since he didn't know. At least the deities agree on making him a mage, though in his thoughts the boy resists. That's not what he wants, and they understand he wants to be a warrior, and they think maybe being a mage really isn't the best choice. The deities can't come to an agreement and hold a vote on what he should be, ending in a tie. However, Gluttony hasn't said anything yet. Ju Seol manages to gain a faint perception of the deity, even if it's just a glowing figure. That seems to be getting closer and closer to him. The young man leaves the room the same way Delphine did, and immediately Agnes asks what his class is, even though the boy is still panting from the experience he had. To celebrate, they make toasts. At least part of Area 1's group is gathered. Sangmai to tease says that Sangha is on cloud 9, and she replies he should be careful with what he says to a priestess. Ju Seol notices that Seal doesn't seem very pleased, so he says the archer class is also great. She says she's not the one who's concerned, her brother is, but Sung Jin says he's not the only warrior. To reassure them, Ju Seol says they'll meet every class, each in its proper role. However, Sangmai says he's only saying that because he's in a favorable position and not everyone, like Yu Seora, took the result well. Meanwhile, Maria Uriel is listening to the conversation, but she thinks they're a bunch of idiots for thinking it's easy to survive with an injured arm, especially in the warrior class. One of the customers says the order is wrong, but the only thing she cares about is figuring out why she even cares about this. Even with the customer complaining, her thoughts are focused on not worrying. Yu Seora won't be giving her any money, and with a wicked smile, her conclusion is to take over the special benefits and get rich. Then, with an angelic face, she says she'll take care of the customer. Cinzia is sitting while being served another drink. In total, the awakening produced 1 mage, 4 priests, 22 archers, and finally 51 warriors. She asks if Agnes is disappointed with the result, and Cinzia tries to guess that what she's thinking is that if he had at least become an archer, he could have been made an expedition leader. She says warriors are needed too, but the problem is that there are too many, so many will end up as human shields. And now Ju Seol is one of them. However, Agnes says she just needs to train him properly. She's in a meditation session with the boy. The exercise doesn't seem so easy, judging by his expression, and Agnes remains firm in her belief that she just needs to train him well. She then says they'll move on to the next phase of training. To Ju Seol's surprise, it's about sensing mana. The one explains that mana is released as soon as the class is decided and asks if he can already feel it. Then he remembers the energy he felt in the awakening chamber. She says it's time to train his class and his mana. Suddenly, he stands up and Agnes asks why. Ju Seol explains that they told him he could buy that stuff in the store, but he just gets smacked on the head. She says that although it's a great help, there will come a time when someone who doesn't train won't be able to reach a certain level. Mana will be felt once he tears the mission ticket and is transported to the selected area, and she'll help him over the course of a week. As a tip, she tells him to try to remember what he felt in the awakening chamber and says he has 1 week for that. The boy just looks confused, but he tries to do what she told him. He is struck by a bright white light. Something very strange is happening. Ju Seol feels like he's in a different place. He tries to understand if what he's feeling is mana. For him, it's hard to breathe like he's in a sauna. A strange energy hits him. Then his body is engulfed in bright light. Just like that, he's back, having successfully completed a basic mission. And Agnes is quite surprised, asking how that happened. Not even he understands and asks if he really completed it as soon as he entered, especially since even the message window only appeared afterward. The woman asks him to try to make the mana circulate, but he doesn't understand how he's supposed to do that. Still, he feels that same sensation. The energy then flows to the rest of his body. For Seal, the sensation feels like meeting a childhood friend, and the class skill mana application is created. Then Agnes realizes that he refused the mage class. He explains that the reason is because he wanted to use a spear. The two were standing in front of the mission board, and the young man chooses a mission. To Agnes, he picked a mission that is extremely important to him for the basics he needs in spear arts. The woman simply agrees with him. Then Seal tears the mission paper, and in front of Agnes' eyes, he is transported. Seal has such powerful mana that the deities would have given him the mage class, but he insisted on becoming a warrior like Sung Xian. The young man is now in an open field. He holds his new spear. Seal grips the spear tightly, trying to understand it better. And to him, this is the feeling he had been searching for. He trains thrusting with the weapon, though without using his mana. The boy remembers Agnes explaining that without the correct posture, he wouldn't be able to counterattack, so he must repeat it 1,250 times. It's a training just like the one he did using Competence's 8x effect for 10,000 repetitions. And for the entire designated time, he continued his training, following what Agnes told him about repetition. He lands the final strike on the wooden dummy. The class skill basic spear thrust was created, and his innate ability reacted to it. In the bathroom, one of the stalls is occupied. Sierra eats a cookie using her only good arm. She eats very carefully, as if trying to make it last longer. Someone knocks on the door, startling her, then calls out, and she recognizes the voice. Since no one responds, the girl apologizes, thinking it was a mistake. But just as she's about to leave, Seal stops. Sierra opens the stall door. Seal places an order for a sandwich and 2 cups of hot milk. While eating, Sierra looks very hungry, and that doesn't go unnoticed by the other girl. Seal asks about her arm. Then the girl replies that it's done for. Once again, Seal suggests asking Jihu for help, reminding her that they need to train their classes, but in her condition, she probably can't. But Sierra says she can't keep depending on him all the time. Seal remains concerned about the dangers there and even tells her about a university student from Area 1 who was eliminated during a mission. That surprises the other girl. Worried, Seal asks her Ani not to leave her side. She says that Sierra is her savior and asks to be allowed to return the favor. That gesture moves the girl deeply. Seal chooses one of the missions from the bulletin board. He picks one and takes it. This surprises others who notice he's only been doing basic tasks. Some defend him, saying it's a good idea since he keeps earning points, while some of them risk their lives to complete missions. The two guys say at the same time that they're jealous of that. Meanwhile, Seal wonders if he won't do any real mission until the time limit, and although he trusts Agnes, he's after results. His spear training continues. He's faster with the spear, and his thoughts remain on those things, wondering if he's even capable of defeating them with his current skills. The young man collapses to the ground, very tired, and thinks it's been a long time since he cut his hair, especially back when he didn't have money to buy even a bowl of ramen because of his gambling debts. Either way, he decides to trust Agnes, understanding that sometimes it's better to take it slow. At the end of his mission, he's brought back, and the boy is alone since no one is there for missions. However, he's not completely alone since Sierra is watching him. She has a sad look and seems to gather the courage to approach him, but someone appears, calling her a cripple. The woman steps out of the shadows and accuses the girl of wanting to use her body in exchange for favors since there's nothing else she can offer in that condition. Sierra says she's never done anything like that before. Then the woman grabs her injured arm tightly. She tells the girl not to make excuses and asks if she was hoping to replace the idiot who recently died. The girl is scared and shocked by the revelation, and Min Young says he was being kept afloat. Letting go of her arm, the woman wishes her luck, insinuating that maybe they'd prefer a cripple. The news is too much for the girl, who holds back the tears, threatening to fall. She runs away, unable to accept the possible truth. Meanwhile, Agnes walks through the corridors, finally finding Seal, whom she had been searching for everywhere. And she understands the reason for his disappearance. He was just getting a new cut. Seal admits it even took a little while, but the woman says she understands, and believes he is trained enough, enduring all without cheating. Hopeful, he asks what that means. Agnes says he will start doing missions. In a forest, Seal grips his spear. He takes another of the competent stimulants, throwing the empty bottle on the ground. Among the bushes, Red Eyes watch him. Alert, he already draws his spear, ready for whatever comes. 2 massive furry beasts emerge. They communicate with each other. Then each moves to a different side, surrounding Seal. The boy wonders if he should wait, but if he does, they might split and attack him from the front and back. In that case, he prefers the best option, so he charges at one of the beasts, striking it with his spear. His best move was taking the initiative. Other survivors comment that he kept all the easy missions for himself, but someone counters, saying he's completing the hard ones really fast. Delphine approaches and notices the group gathering. That makes her curious to understand what's going on. Meanwhile, Ju Seol is becoming increasingly unstoppable and looks for more missions. He's startled by Delphine's voice saying that sooner or later, he'll need a team. She explains that it will be impossible to handle high-level missions alone, and even if he's not in the mood, he'll need experience working in a team. Ju Seol knows she's not wrong, since despite being tough, those missions reward 10,000 points. But he says there's something he needs to resolve on his own. And without waiting, he tears the paper, ignoring the girl once again. Delphine finds out where he went. Transported to where he intended, Ju Seol smiles at the reunion. He's back in the place where his fears began. The creatures already rush toward him. There's nowhere to run and retreating won't help. There's only one thing to do. Ju Seol doesn't stand still this time and charges into the attack. With his spear, he brings down everything in his path. His weapon is radiating with mana. Several more are easily defeated by him. The Monster King roars as if issuing a threat, and with his massive axe, he charges. He comes from behind while Ju Seol is attacking one of the smaller skeletons. He had waited so long for this day. With fury in their eyes, the two opponents face each other. How long Ju Seol had waited for this moment. The blades of their weapons clash, but Seol isn't willing to lose and puts all his strength into it. His spear pierces through the giant's skull, severing the upper part of its body. The mission is successful, earning a reward of 1,000 survival points, bringing his total to 85,280. But Ju Seol had gone from 128,780 points down to 38,780. He believes the expense is worth it since only a limited number of people can shop the VIP store. Saving the magic strength boost potion for later, he drinks another. His priority is 9 eyes. He drops the empty bottle. Soon his native skill evolves and the black-colored low direction warning with escape immediately alert is unlocked. To him, that's great, and only one more bottle is needed. Ju Seol notices someone in his room. It's Hannah Kim, whom he hasn't seen in a while. The woman talks about how he didn't ring a letter and thus didn't learn he has the privilege of an assistant, but Seol ignores that and just wants to know what she wants. She came with a warning and a request for help but believes he's doing well and doesn't need encouragement. Hannah Kim advises him to find teammates and suggests Delphine or the highest-ranking executive of the Triad, Ha Win. Dismissing her for acting like his mom choosing his friends, Ju Seol asks her to just say what favor she wants. Then she asks him to help Yoon Seora. She explains it's a request from her superior. They want her to develop naturally in the neutral zone, but it's becoming complicated due to her current situation. Being smart, Seol says it was them who invited her, so she and the boss would be in his debt. Then the young man asks what he gets from it. Hannah quotes from the book of Matthew. Therefore, whatever you want others to do for you, do also the same for them. That leaves him even more confused. She explains that in paradise terms, a debt will always be repaid. All in the name of the golden rule. But as she leaves, she says the decision is his, and Seol just thinks about resolving the pending matter first. He looks at the potion. Everything around him starts to spin. With one more sip of the potion, his innate ability, 9 eyes, evolved. The golden color, the golden rule, was unlocked. He stumbles out of his room dizzy, and the boy realizes the coincidence of this happening right after Hannah Kim talked about it. His doubt is how to use the new evolution. He activates 9 eyes. In the entire building, only one floor shines like gold. The door looks like it's been broken into, and he's uneasy to know what's inside. He enters the room and realizes the glow is coming from a person. Getting closer, he sees clearly and finds out it's Yoon Seora. Her room is warmed by the fireplace. Meanwhile, Maria Uriel gives the order for the arm to be amputated. But Ju Seol remembers they said she's an experienced healer, a level 4 priestess, and she says she can't reverse the necrosis. However, Agnes says there's still hope. If she reaches level 5, she'll be able to learn a highly powerful sacred technique, which is the treatment for immense wounds. This irritates Maria, who yells at her to shut up, while Seol hesitates, asking if she really isn't level 4. Agnes says a priest can pray to their deity, hoping to be blessed with a timely skill, but the girl doesn't want to listen. Because the cost is high, and after the ceremony there's no guarantee the deity will grant the request. If it fails, the priest will be bedridden for 7 days with a high fever and forbidden from casting spells for 2 weeks. Another problem is that if she leaves the neutral zone before the time limit, all points earned there will be lost, and the materials aren't cheap either. Ju Seol realizes that if they pool the points, Maria can make it happen, and she reveals she has 30,000 points. The girl says she's an area assistant, and for that reason, she has the freedom to ask if he's easily influenced. She says that if he has points to give away, he should spend them in the VIP shop or just give them to her. She doesn't get why he'd spend them on something like this. Startled by her, Seol replies that it's a request from the person who invited him to be there. She quickly assumes Hannah Kim came precisely for that reason. She sighs and doesn't hold back on cursing lust. Then the girl suddenly mentions 82,000 points, leaving everyone confused. She reveals that's the total cost of the materials for the ceremony. The only missions left are 10 hard difficulty ones, and for each she has 10 attempts. Delphine looks at the bulletin board and thinks that only top-ranking players could handle them. Someone asks if she has time for coffee, but without even looking, the girl brushes them off, thinking it's someone seeking scouts. However, she notices something and turns around. Ju Seol is the one who invited her. Then he says he wants to join her group. The group is gathered and Ha-Win is shocked to learn the cost is 82,000 points. At least for Seol to join the group, the comments about his obsession with missions will stop, and as a bonus, he can help complete the high difficulty tasks. In any case, Ha-Win decides he wants him in the group and says that it'll help him with the 82,000 points. Thong Che thinks they're going too far and that it would be wiser to choose another talented warrior for the group, but Delphin defends him, saying he's good enough to complete missions alone. Even so, the man doesn't see any guarantee in him. Then Lourdes suggests that Seol prove what he can do, saying he's the kind of person who needs to see it to believe it. In that case, Ju Seol says it's time to go and prove his worth. The siblings lament what's happening, feeling guilty for putting Seol in this situation, while Seol panics, not knowing how to get that many points. The door is violently thrown open. The siblings are startled to see who it is. Maria Uriel arrives cheerfully, accompanied by several people, saying she's here for the ritual. Meanwhile, the others wait outside the room. Sung Jin calls for Ju Seol. The boy is curious to know how he managed to get almost 80,000 points in a single day. Ha-Win, smoking to relieve stress, asks what he's talking about. The man says they only made around 40,000 points. The room is glowing so brightly that golden light is shining through the cracks in the door, and that leaves everyone stunned. They want to understand what's happening inside the room. The door finally opens. Maria Uriel comes out extremely exhausted, being helped by the other priestesses. Badly injured and worn out, she tells Seol not to forget that he now owes her, that he remembers the golden rule. As Ju Seol watches her leave, everyone stares in awe at the door. It's Yoon Seo-rae, fully recovered. Seol runs over to the girl, overjoyed to see her well. Yoon Seo-rae then looks at Ju Seol. The young man just gestures toward her. That's enough for her, and she nods in gratitude. Watching the emotional scene, Ha-Win asks if this is love. With Seol added to Delphine's group, all missions they accepted were cleared. Seol paid back all the points he had borrowed in just 2 days, and as a favor, Seo-ra, Seol-ah, and Sung Jin began training with a certain instructor. Without mercy, Agnes tells them to save their complaints for break time and demands they start over from the top. The trio agrees that the woman is the devil in person. Only 1 day remains until the neutral zone's time limit and 1 more team mission is completed. Only one remains. The impossible mission. Lourdes says doing it is madness, and Hao agrees, saying not to confuse foolishness with bravery, while the girl laments losing the VIP store coupon. Ju Seol smiles, observing the scene. Then the moment arrives, and they wonder whether they should disband the group. In room number 1, the trio is gathered while Seol counts his items, including 3 spheres and a feather quill of conscious flow. Among his belongings, he finds a scroll forgotten by time. It's the one he received in the auditorium. Yoon Seo-rae says it's a waste he hasn't used it yet, but he says it'll be useful someday. Then Sung Jin shares a rumor that with the end of the neutral zone, privilege items will disappear, and they'll have to return their cell phones too. Ju Seol laments and wonders if at least the triggered magic is random. Curious, Yoon Seo-rae wants to know what kind of magic might be on it, and reveals that hers was of the imprisonment type. But Yu believes the scroll isn't about that. As the end nears, the place grows empty. Meanwhile, Ju Seol looks at the only mission left on the bulletin board, thinking about another gamble. He picks up the mission paper. Tearing the paper, he's ready for anything. This time, for him, it's guaranteed. The mission is a one-time attempt. Annihilate the Guardian race and destroy the fortress within 48 hours, with risk of elimination. A blue envelope is slipped under Ju Seol's door. Yoon Seo-rae is present and becomes curious about what it is. She picks up the envelope and sees that it's for her. It's a mission scroll for sword training. But there's another that makes her eyes widen when she reads its contents. The hallway is empty and dimly lit. In her room, the lady in red laments that the boy is no longer there. With him around, she feels she wouldn't be in this horrible situation. She notices something happening outside. Her room door suddenly opens. She stands up on alert. A hand emerges from the darkness and grabs her. The woman is visibly frightened. It's Yoon Seo-rae, grabbing her by the dress. Suddenly, a light shines on them both. They are transported to another place. The girl stares at her, trying to understand what she's trying to do. Yoon Seo-rae asks her to pick up the sword and gives her a chance, but the woman retorts, reminding her the time limit is the next day. The girl says she knows it was her who pushed everything to happen. That night, when everyone was gathered, it was Min-young who told Burrito what to do, and the college student realized something was off. There was no one else around that day, and Burrito heard her, telling her to stay quiet because it hadn't even started, and even said he might give her some points. But someone had been paying attention to everything happening, and tells the man to leave. The young man demands a rematch. Then the man angrily opens the door and asks if he wants to be eliminated. Tearing the paper, the young man says not to underestimate a sergeant from the Korean army. The two were transported far from there, leaving the long hallway empty, and so Yoon Seo-rae is free to leave, finally able to walk away in peace. But the woman can't believe the boy would be capable of something like that. Yoon Seo-rae accuses her of knowing all along and says she's just afraid to admit it, because without Burrito, she has nowhere to go. Annoyed, the woman grabs her sword and tells her to shut up, shouting that the girl doesn't know anything as she charges forward. But Yu Seora is also ready with her own sword, so the two of them face off in that place, and Yu Seora ends up taking the advantage, striking her blade into the woman's chest. Reluctantly, that's not how the lady in red wants to be eliminated. The woman falls to the ground, and the girl promises that she won't be the only one sent back by her. The single-use VIP store ticket falls to the floor. As if returning from the land of the dead, Yu Seal declares he just completed an impossible mission. The reward for the successful mission is the VIP store ticket and 172,800 survival points, totaling 477,977. Aang asks if he was hoping to die being beaten with a bamboo stick, but either way, she trusts he has some sort of plan, and apparently he does have one in mind. Yu Seal remembers his conversation with Hannah about the impossible mission that may or may not be completed, and he asks why it was even posted on the board. She then tells him about the only person who completed it, Sung Shiyan, but she doesn't believe it was through normal means, saying it was like he just got lucky. The cube opened by Seal searched for the most needed talisman for the current situation. A level 12 earthquake would be triggered in the area where the player was present. His winning move came thanks to 2 lucky chances he took during the gamble. Seal intends to take that information with him to the grave. As he hands over the ticket, Aang asks if she can give one last piece of advice. Everyone is gathered at the plaza for the announcement of the deadline. Sinzi declares the end of the neutral zone process. With her frightening gaze, she asks if they know how to get out of there. A door opens and a strong yellow light pours out. Some shut their eyes, but Yu Seal keeps looking and realizes they're no longer in the neutral zone. They're in the lost paradise. He wonders if it's really over. Claire Agnes steps through the portal. Looking at her, the young man understands, and Vesky has his answer. It's not over yet. This is only the beginning of everything. A voice comes from behind saying that now he looks like a real Earthling. It's Hannah Kim offering him a ride home. But apparently, Yu Seal doesn't seem too happy about it. The woman freaks out, saying that even though time passes 3 times slower, he's already been there for 3 months and asks if he wants people to report him missing. Each survivor is received by an assistant, and he wonders if he'll ever see them all again. But he holds on to the hope that it could happen, as long as they stay alive. Yu Seal is taken to Scheherazade, the Temple of Lust. Hannah Kim says that Yoon Seora will stay at Sinyeon's headquarters and mentions it's a good time for them to say goodbye. Smiling, Seal says it was all fun while it lasted. Then he tells her to take care. But before he leaves, the girl runs up, wanting to know his name. She asks if Seal is his last name and wonders if he can tell her the real one. With a smile, he says his name is Seal Jihu. The new facility is quite beautiful. There's an open portal nearby. She asks him why he didn't want to say his name, and that she only knows it because she looked him up. But Yu Seal says he never used his name when going to the casino, since he kind of felt unworthy of using it. After a few years, it became normal, and he didn't want to stain the name his parents gave him. So Hannah Kim asks if maybe now would be a good time to start using it again. Without answering, he simply says he'll see her soon on Earth. The room is still a mess, just like he left it. Only the portal light shines for a few seconds. Yu Seal opens the window that had been shut for a long time. Unlike before, there are now many people walking in the street, and so he confirms that he really has returned. He notices his phone there. The battery is dead. After all, he was gone for a month, and all that's left is to charge it. Once a failure with nothing, the young man now rides in a luxurious car. Hannah told him about the money transfer, saying their job is to ensure Earthlings live a peaceful life, but he's shocked by the 150 million won. He's back at the casino, and that's still where the taxi drops him off. Yu Seal smiles, remembering how long it had been since he last came there. However, that's not where he decides to stay. Another car drops him off somewhere less luxurious than the casino. He enters the house, hoping no one is there as he doesn't have the courage to look them in the eye. But an irritated voice asks what he's doing there. The man's name is Hyun, and once again he asks what he came there for, this time more seriously. Showing the bags, he says he came to return the 50 million won he borrowed and adds that the laptop and the car are for Jinhee. Curious, the man asks if he hit the jackpot or won the lottery. From the upper floor, a girl asks who he's talking to. Her smile fades when she sees who it is. She comes down the stairs asking how he has the nerve to show up. After all, she swore to eliminate him if she ever saw him again. But she notices something different. The girl looks at the car and asks if it's his, saying she thought she'd never see it again after Seal sold it. The man asks if he came from the casino, then tells him to leave and take his dirty money with him. But Seal says the money isn't from gambling and that he only went to the casino to register himself as someone banned from entering. Then the man asks where all that money came from, and the girl immediately claims it's obvious that the money came from something shady. Jiggy runs off with the bags and refuses to give them back even though the man asks. She says she'll take them even if she ends up regretting it later. The man says they'll talk another time. Ju tries to stop him from leaving, but it's too late. The boy laments it wasn't how he wanted things to go. It's nighttime and the coffee shop is still open. The employees are unsure how to judge the person and are curious about his relationship with the manager. Stanwa says she got a call from Wusok asking if she had lent money for gambling. But Ju Seal says he earned it through work and received a bonus for his performance. She asks what kind of work, but Seal says it's a secret. So Stanwa can only guess what it might be. The woman asks if by any chance he went there. Ju Seal runs through the busy avenue in a rush. He heard people say they go abroad and come back later. A conversation with his ex where she asks about organ dealers, which leaves him confused by the question. She asks how he managed to get such a large amount of money in just 1 month. Being compared to that kind of person wasn't pleasant, especially coming from her. Hannah Kim is waiting for him. The young man doesn't look nearly as well as he did earlier. He then rests his head on her shoulder, catching her off guard. In desperation, Ju Seal pleads to go back. A cart is carrying some people. One of them asks how long until they reach Haramark, and the man says that if he had known it would end up like this, he would have waited for a girl to board. The knight asks if he agrees, but Alex says a men-only trip isn't so bad. Since the journey will take a while, the man introduces himself as Priest Alex, level 3, and the other is Hugo, a level 4 barbarian warrior. He says the spear looks cool and must be at least level 2. The man in front says he's a level 1 warrior, and this knight is Jihu Seol, a planet where monsters and magic exist, the Lost Paradise. The reason the 7 deities grant powers to Earthlings is a simple ideal. They must fight the parasitic queen who invaded paradise. But there's something the deities didn't foresee. The professor speaks of the lost tomb in the forest from the era when magical engineering was at its peak. He can only think of how much wealth is inside that tomb. Meanwhile, the rest of the group follows in silence. What the deities didn't foresee is that human beings are petty. 7 days ago in Haramark, the sign outside already indicates it's a place for great fun, especially with food and drinks. The man announces he's looking for volunteers for an escort mission. He explains that Carp Diem and the team will be in charge of the escort, but they hope more people will join them. He grabs their attention by saying it's a royal family request with generous rewards. One of the knights asks where they're going and he says it's the forest of negativity. Everyone goes silent for a moment. Then they start laughing as if they heard the funniest joke ever. The man says he should have expected that as soon as he mentioned Carp Diem was coming too, and the other tells him to save the jokes for Earth. Very seriously, Samuel asks if he looks like he's joking. That's enough to make everyone go quiet. The man says not to go there, and that even the great priestess Rebecca barely escaped with her life. Another says that besides, there's not much to gain from it. The risk isn't worth it, not even for the royal family's reward. But something catches everyone's attention, and it really pisses Samuel off. They look at the hooded man sitting near the counter. One of the men tells him to pay attention to what Samuel is saying, but the man simply moves to take another bite of his meat. Some comment that they've never seen him around and that maybe he's from Scheherazade. That's a place where even a level 2 can get eliminated for acting arrogantly. The man stands up, saying there's a saying that even dogs deserve to be left alone while they're eating, but that's not the case here. The red-haired guy asks what he just said. Pulling back his hood, he says he's a level 1 and that his name is Seal, though he keeps his full name hidden. For some reason, he manages to surprise everyone. But warriors comment that he must be level 2 because of the magical spear, something a rookie would normally have, while others simply watch. Feeling offended, the man charges at him and says not to joke with him, but his punch is easily caught in time. Ju Seal still holds onto him, and the man realizes just how strong he is. Irritated, he channels mana through his body. However, it doesn't have the desired effect. The warrior is pretty tough, but he does feel a bit of the mana's pressure and starts to circulate his own mana through his body. That's when the man realizes he lied about his level. Ju Seal doesn't even try that hard, while the other man is left lying on the ground exhausted. He says that this whole thing ruined his appetite and asks what he's going to do about it. The bartender, watching the little scuffle, remembers that he ate at least 3 plates. The argument irritates people, and they accuse the man of lying about his level just to make the other drop his guard. Dodging a strike, he just watches. The red-haired man draws his sword, as do everyone else who are betting on his defeat. The man observes the complicated situation the rookie has gotten himself into, but no team will recruit him if he backs down now. Someone asks what's going on over there, asking if a fight is already starting. They step into the tavern and the door slams behind them, making a loud noise. It's Hugo and Alex who greet Seol. The boy greets the two of them. Samuel asks if they know each other, and Alex explains that they came together from Zura. Not understanding why everyone's pointing their swords at him, Hugo asks what's going on. Clearly not happy, he asks when Haramark started ganging up on a level 1 rookie. But the man says he's not level 1 and that he was fooled too. Only for Alex to confirm that he is, in fact, level 1, and that he personally checked his stat window. But the man disagrees, saying Seal beat him in mana flow and amplitude. He says Cinzia told him an interesting story, that among the March graduates, someone unusual had emerged, that he only did basic training for 2 months, and in the 3rd month took his first real mission. Then one day he picked an impossible rank mission and completed it alone. And then he finished top of the March graduate class, a gold mark. The knight says he's an irregular, just like Sung Xian. Then they call out to Jivu Seol. He tells the young man to make himself at home and says he owes them one. The coffee is being prepared. The man takes care of it while Seol and Hugo sit down. He thanks him for the help earlier. That makes Hugo laugh as he remembers how they once challenged Carpe Diem and Haramark, saying that's like saying you're going to log out of paradise. The man says the place has a bad reputation, but it's just a bunch of people who think they can do whatever they want, and Hugo says there are worse places. Someone comes down the stairs in a hurry. The woman asks when they got there. Seol seems a bit intimidated by her presence, just as the woman seems surprised to see him there. But then Hugo starts yelling that he already told her to dry herself properly and that she's getting the floor all wet, and she says she'll dry off eventually. Either way, that's not what matters to her right now. Walking over to Seol, she asks what this is, acting like it's no big deal. And the man says he's a guest, which she finds strange at that hour of the night. Throwing herself onto the sofa, she says she's never seen him before, but he replies that she'll be seeing him often. They introduce Cho Hong, the gem of the team, a level 4 sacred champion, but she insists he's laughing, which irritates her. As mentioned before, Hugo is the level 4 barbarian warrior and the bald one on the team, which he says is very stylish. And finally, he introduces himself as a level 5 archer and the team leader. This is Carpe Diem of Haramark, but Seol thinks his 9 eyes must be broken for seeing gold. Hugo says their motto is to do whatever they feel like and that happiness comes first. Meanwhile, Cho Hong asks if they're seriously thinking of putting Seol on the team. Excited, the man asks him to join and promises to take good care of him, but Seol, laughing awkwardly, says it's a bit sudden. The man explains that Seol will play the role of pack mule on the mission, and since it's his first expedition, he brought him along to show how things work, and that a promising talent like him would be well used in the team. Although he thinks of them as the Three Stooges, Seol understands that the gold color might indicate correlation, but he doesn't necessarily have to join their team. Cho Hong asks if all this is just him saying that Seol is basically just a rookie. He says his name when asked, but she keeps picking on his smile, saying he has no idea how terrifying Haramark is and asks if he wants a taste of what she can do. When he asks how to get a taste, Cho Hong wants to know what his problem is to have so much confidence. Meanwhile, he's drooling all over his drink, saying it's not coffee and tastes like medicine. Hugo asks what the plus alpha in the mission is, something they can gain even if it's not the priority. He explains that it's the same for Samuel's group, and that this is not a simple escort mission, revealing that they're going into the depths, right into the heart of the forest. The man says a method to clear the forest of negativity has been discovered. Early in the morning, they prepare to depart. The leader of Carpe Diem and Samuel are gathered. The old man greets them. It's been a while since they saw the professor, and he soon greets the lovely ladies, still acting the same as always. The old man doesn't miss the moment to tell Cho Hong that she's still beautiful, and she threatens to shorten the pervy old man's life even more. Seol asks about the old man, and Hugo explains that Professor Ian is a level 4 alchemist, a royal mage from Haramark, a well-known figure in paradise. Samuel soon asks everyone to get ready. Each of them awaits what lies ahead. Then the man declares it's time to depart. The group splits between 2 wagons that will take them, and Jiu Seol can only think that this will be his first expedition. The young man still can't shake what he heard about being a gold mark, top of his class yet irregular. He wonders what all of it was for, since in the end, a level 1 warrior is only good for carrying bags. Jiu Seol believes maybe he should have contacted Sinyoung, but if it weren't for that golden glow backslash. The team keeps moving along the path until Samuel signals for everyone to stop. There's an Eton cave minus 30 of them at 12 o'clock and 10 of them at 10 o'clock from their current position. All the troops prepare for battle. The presence of the massive creatures can already be felt, and Samuel warns that they're coming. Giant two-headed beasts begin to appear, all of them ferocious, and the charge is sounded to begin the clash. Jiu Seol's eyes are sharp, his spear ready for any attack. However, Cho Hong asks why a pack mule is trying to fight and tells him to step back and watch. Samuel leads the charge, throwing his weapons at them. The shurikens are extremely fast and make clean, precise cuts in each monster they hit. His action only enraged the monsters even more. They begin roaring and charging forward, but arrows are fired at them and hit directly in their eyes. The team's archer smiles proudly at her accuracy. Meanwhile, another warrior arrives. The man uses his shield to knock down the Ettins like bowling pins and proceeds through the creatures. Banging on his shield, he draws the monster's attention so they'll come toward him. Some Ettins are affected by the sound, but they didn't even have time to react without their heads. Humo landed a great strike with his axe. The man smiles at his victory over them. The forest is quite calm, until suddenly, more movement is heard coming from within it. Startled, Jiu Seol believes it's an ambush. In any case, more ferocious Ettins appear, but most of them are set on fire, with their flaming arrows shot by the leader of Carpe Diem. Cho Hong compliments Dylan, and the man says he's leaving the cleanup to her, and smiling, the woman goes to do her part. Some of the remaining Ettins are still dazed from the blow, but soon the woman's heavy weapon ends one of their suffering. She smiles just from looking at what she did. Then she takes out the rest of the Ettins. Impressed, Seal realizes this is what high-ranking people are like. Ayan, who's watching, comments to the young man on how amazing Chohong is, and she wastes no time telling the dirty old man not to say her name with that filthy mouth of his. Hugo then tells her to be more respectful toward the master, but she tells him to get off her back. To Ju Seal, they act like a family. His smile doesn't go unnoticed by Ayan, who says he can even do something as simple as smile. The professor realizes they hadn't properly introduced themselves, so the two exchange names. The day goes on during the expedition. Hugo is cheerful and calls for Seal to come over. The young man does, and he doesn't go unnoticed by Samuel. The man sees that the other pack mules are very exhausted. Annoyed, he asks if they plan to leave everything to Seal, and the woman says that natives always slack off. They claim exhaustion, and even with weight expanding and reducing spells, it's still too much for them since they weren't blessed by the deities. But that doesn't sit well with Samuel. Still, Seal says he doesn't mind carrying it. The man asks if it's not too heavy, telling him not to overdo it since they'll be climbing a hill soon, but Seal sees it as training. Samuel agrees since it's not a problem for him. They watch the young man walk toward the other mules. Even Carp Diem notices, and Hugo walks up, saying he fits perfectly into the team. Chohong says he's not as fragile as she thought. Curious, Hugo asks what Dylan thinks of the idea, but the man says no way. Hugo tries to argue that Seal has potential and is dedicated, but that's exactly why Dylan rejects him. That leaves the two confused. To the leader, this is the most important period for Seal, and he needs a team that can lead the front line and provide support in the rear. And Hugo says that sounds a lot like their team. But Dylan says the old man is stepping down and doesn't have much confidence, and tells them not to forget they need a solution as soon as possible. Hugo tries asking Chohong for help, who seems to ignore him. But she says Dylan is the current leader, personally chosen by the old man. She says there's no reason to argue, even as Hugo asks if she's really going to let things stay that way. The man wonders why she had to act all mature at this exact moment. Chohong walks between the mules, and doesn't miss the chance to glance at Jifu Seal, but soon walks past without saying anything. It's almost dusk and a caravan keeps moving. Samuel spots the forest of negativity. After passing through it, it's possible to reach anywhere, the Federation or even the parasites. Pointing in a direction, Samuel says it means this is the southernmost human region, and Seal realizes it's the border. He remembers a conversation where he was told to leave Scheherazade because Xinjiang holds great influence in the area. Xinjiang's victory in the civil war between Earthlings and its current position of authority is all thanks to Sung Xian. Because of his sudden disappearance, the company was weakened, and when Seal appeared, she believed people would want him. Ju Seal asks if she was referring to the contract that was offered to him, and the woman says yes. However, she reminds him that he signed a contract with her and asks what he thought went through their minds when they found that out. She says that if a competitor got Seal before they did, it would make them anxious, and asks if he doesn't think they try to destroy him before he reached a point of no return. Seal asks where he should go, and Kim suggests Haramark, a less dangerous region, though the risk of elimination is higher if he doesn't cross the border. Feeling awkward, he smiles, thinking he ended up right at the border. In the end, for him, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. As it's almost night, the caravan stops and sets up its tents. Hyan says the place is just as he imagined, not being under a curse's influence, but rather under sorcery, something very powerful and ancient. Chohong asks what they should do since he had said there was a way to complete it, but he says of course there's a way. Ju Seal is curious and asks why it's called the Forest of Negativity. Ayan says it's surprising that a level 1 is asking that, and irritated, Chohong demands that he continue. People who enter the forest feel a strong urge to deny something, and no one knows what they'll deny, which makes things more dangerous. He wonders if it could be denying the existence of the ally beside them, or the desire to deny their weapon in the middle of battle, or even the urge to deny their own existence. That leaves everyone worried, and he tells them not to dwell on it. Ayan says that if the plan fails, they'll turn around and head back home. To provoke, Chohong asks if he's scared and tells him not to worry. Nuna will protect him. But Seal just gives a smile. While others move away, he takes a look around. With his ability, he can't see any color. Somewhere nearby, someone speaks about more having shown up, which is very good. Something urges them to come closer, because that way it can tear them to pieces while they're still alive. A new day begins for the expedition. Each of them has a potion, and Chohong asks if it will cleanse the deterioration of the mind. Ayan replies that it works up to a certain point and that the key factor is willpower. Each of them drinks the potion. Reveal emotions will be used as a catalyst to activate the spell in the forest. Whether they like it or not, people around them will be affected. Ayan only asks that they don't forget to stay calm. The caravan proceeds into the forest, and Ju Seal finds the place amazing, wondering if the Amazon rainforest is anything like this. Samuel is the first to notice something strange. Up ahead, there's something on the ground that the knight thinks is a person, but Samuel says no, and asks Khan what he's doing there. Shocked, Hugo asks how Khan ended up there. The knight says he went after him first before making the proposal to the others. Irritated, Samuel says he refused to come. He kicks the man's body for having lied to him. The man tries to calm him, saying it's not worth it now, since the guy's already dead. That doesn't help much, and Samuel raises his fist. leaving the other man very frightened. He says there's no way to calm down. He's never been this furious. But Alex keeps asking him to calm down. A dark aura surrounds Samuel. However, someone strikes him from behind. That only makes his rage worse. He turns to find out who it was. Now all this fury is directed at Dylan, until Ian speaks. Modus debilitate him, using his staff to cast a spell. A white light envelops Samuel, and all the rage he felt seems to vanish. Ian explains that he used a purification spell and that he should be fine now. Samuel apologizes for what happened. To him, it felt like everyone was trying to betray him. The professor says that in this case, he denied the trust of his allies. Seeing the result of this, the archer says the forest really is dangerous. Dylan notices that there are 10 footprints leading inward, but only Khan's footprints coming out. The woman recalls that his team had 8 members, and 2 sets probably belonged to the pack mules, but the question is about the other guy. Huda wants to know what could be capable of killing a level 5 royal guard and if anyone else made it out alive. Samuel is trying to draw his own conclusions. He notices claw marks on the armor, no matter how many times he looks. Suddenly, a strange sound makes everyone cover their ears. Seal wonders what it is, and if it's some kind of animal, he recognizes the sound. A massive beast carrying an axe lands on the ground, making the earth shake. With the head of a lion, it roars fiercely, prompting Ian to shout that it's a lioner. Frightened, everyone grabs their weapons. A shot is fired at the monster, which explodes, throwing it backward. The attack was from the shooter, Dylan. It's hard to tell what happened because of the smoke, but when it clears, they see the attack was blocked by the monster's weapon. Hugo realizes it's Khan's halberd. More lioners approach, surrounding them. Despite the situation, Samuel asks if this is the migration season. He wonders why beasts that live in the mountains have appeared there. Dylan declares that he will take care of the ones in the front. Hugo and Clara are assigned to the left side, while Samuel and Grace take the right side. And so Dylan gives the order to attack. Each pair heads to their designated side. The giant lion-faced monster charges forward. It doesn't go unnoticed by the leader of Carp Diem, who fires once again at the monster. The lioner stops running and realizes part of his body has been wounded. Its attention shifts to Dylan, the leader of Carp Diem. The monster roars and charges at him, but the man is quicker, disappearing from its line of sight. Dylan fires more arrows at the creature. All of them aim at the monster's back. However, it defends itself using its weapon as a shield, but a few still manage to strike its arm and leg, and it screams in both pain and rage. Luckily, even though he's a shooter, he performs exceptionally well in close combat. His aerial steps are fast, with no wasted movements. Dylan positions himself behind the monster, and the creature notices roaring at him. But the man is confident in this fight. It's clear he's toying with his opponent. 2 beasts together strike with their weapons. Grace manages to block the impact using her shield. 2 more appear surrounding her, but Samuel is alert and throws his shurikens, asking where they think they're going. Samuel's movements are also amazing, and his stars hit the lioners right on target. Even so, Ju Seol worries whether there's really any chance of victory. He notices Cho Hong standing beside him, watching the battle with a concerned expression. Humo is fighting a group of ferocious lioners, and he seems to be in trouble. The man yells at Clara to do something. The woman quickly places an arrow on her bow and channels her mana into it. The shots are fired toward the lioners, but their bodies are like stone, and the arrows merely bounce off their chests and fall to the ground as if they were nothing. Humo says it seems he expected too much from a level 2. The monsters charge at him, and he manages to defend both his flanks. However, he receives a warning. A third is coming from behind. The lioner strikes at his back, but Cho Hong precisely blocks his blind spot with her conjured magic shield. Hugo complains that she broke the master's rules, but annoyed, the woman asks what he wanted her to do. Let him be another one eliminated. Grace remains resilient under the beast's blows, but her shield is already starting to crack. The advantage in the battle is gradually shifting. With another blow, the knight's shield shatters, and the impact knocks her to the ground. Lust is what protects her from a tragic end. In disbelief, she looks toward where it came from. With his crucifix, the priest Alex protected her. The object begins to disintegrate in his hand. Ju Seol knows that the pack mules aren't supposed to interfere, but faced with what he's seeing, he wonders if he should really just stand there doing nothing. Even Ian, who wasn't summoned, tries to help, using all of his power against the creatures. The old man looks like a powerful mage. He invokes Gladio Ventus and launches magical crystals at the lioners. The crystals hit several monsters, protecting everyone else. Cho Hong even praises the old man's good performance, but it doesn't please the lioner leader. He gets hit in the knee, and the magical crystal begins to dig deeper into his body. With that, the monster falls to the ground in front of Dylan. The Carp Diem leader shouts for them to keep pressing the attack. Grace and Samuel defend their side. Cho Hong is now helping on Hugo and Clara's side. Meanwhile, Ju Seol still stands still, as the morale has been established and he truly believes they can win. But the lioner roars again, making everyone cover their ears from the terrible sound. Seol feels as if his skin is being ripped off. Then the tide turns and he believes they won't make it, that they can't win. Ian invokes Modus Stabilitatum, and his spell hits Ju Seol. The young man seems to snap out of the effect caused by the forest of negativity. It had crushed the expedition team's hope in the blink of an eye. The young man feels he needs to clear his mind and assess the situation logically. He notices that the lioner appears to be smiling, and Ju Seol tries to understand what the creature's intention is. The young man then looks at Ian. Believing he is not the opponent, he steps away. That doesn't go unnoticed by Chohong and Hugo. Even holding his spear, he believes he shouldn't take such a risk. Ju Seol grips his weapon and prepares for the throw. He doesn't care about anything anymore, and with that, he hurls his spear. Ian watches, not understanding what he's doing. The spear grazes his ear and strikes a beast that was behind the old mage. Samuel thinks they walked right into a trap. The humanoid beast with a lioness's head is furious. The two opponents face each other. She roars as she leaps to attack him. Her blade strike is blocked by Ju's spear, but her strength is overwhelming. He needs more mana. More of that energy flows through his body and is channeled into his spear, which absorbs the impact. Ju Seol won't let it all be in vain, and the beast seems to sense that her opponent is different now. The young man is even more powerful and strikes back with a counterattack on the lioner. From the impact, the tip of his spear cracks. He looks quite exhausted from the blow he delivered. The beast stands frozen, then collapses at his feet. The fight drained him immensely. Meanwhile, the others watch the scene in shock. What happened seems to have enraged the other lioner, and Dylan says he let his guard down, then fires another arrow at the monster. The lioner seems to have realized it too late, because it's hit with a blow so strong it's hurled away. The creature crashes to the ground, and that shot was deadly. With its fall, the remaining lioners appear frightened and try to flee. Thus, they've won. Ju Seol collapses to the ground, completely exhausted. He had charged in without even using his Nine Eyes ability beforehand. They call out his name in the midst of their victory. Hugo is proud and says he should have joined the team formation instead of being a mule, but the boy reminds him he's just level 1. Ian approaches and asks if he realizes what he just did, saying that the female lioner he fought exceeds the strength of a level 4 warrior. The old man tells Seol that he saved his life. Samuel comments that he thought all the talk about irregulars was just nonsense. He says he's looking forward to working with Seol for the rest of the expedition, but as an official team member. The man asks what he thinks about that. Dylan, the leader of Kark Diem, watches the scene, as does Chohong, who's waiting for his answer. With a smile, Ju Seol accepts the offer and says he's counting on everyone's help. The team continues their expedition. Samuel, as always, leads them. A cave appears ahead, and they want to know if it's really the right place. Ian says the energy of denial is spread throughout the forest. However, this spot is calm like the eye of a hurricane, and just as he suspected, the spell was cast to keep this area safe. Ju Seol recalls that as soon as he stepped in, he felt more relaxed, and the pressure on his chest and head disappeared. Hugo asks if this is the place, and Ian confirms it's where the saint's tomb lies. Clara says they should go in as she's dying of curiosity. Meanwhile, Alex is so excited he can't even imagine the kinds of rare artifacts awaiting them. However, Ju Seol doesn't seem pleased with the situation and wonders if they really intend to go in. Samuel says they first need to find the entrance, and someone asks if they should really enter. It's Ju Seol, still troubled by the whole thing. So the video ends here. If you don't want to miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and see you next time on Tob's channel.